Carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. and the cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dane Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K through 12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending plans. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter storm warning will go into effect here early Wednesday morning. A few spotty snow showers possible late this afternoon, mostly cloudy skies, a high in the upper teens. Southeast winds of 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a good chance for snow showers 3 to 7 inches possible. Cloudy skies, temperatures steady early, then slowly rise overnight. By Wednesday, good chance for snow 2 to 4 inches possible. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 14.
Loffersweiler Funeral Home is pleased to announce the addition of our crematory. I'm Luke Loffersweiler. The addition of our on-site crematory is another example of how we consistently exceed expectations and deliver a standard of service that is 100% guaranteed. At Loffersweilers, we're honored to give your family our assistance and expertise, taking care of even the smallest details before, during, and after the funeral, so you can begin the healing process. We're Loffersweiler Funeral Home, Fort Dodge, a trusted friend of the family for over 160 years.
Mom, I'm running to the store. Be right back.
All right, who's ready to hit the road?
Hey, Jack, I'm headed out to go pick up Grandma. Be ready by the time I get back.
It doesn't matter whether it's a quick trip or a long one. Buckling up is the single most effective thing you can do to protect yourself in a crash. And while airbags are great, they're designed to work with seatbelts, not replace them. So buckle up every trip, every time. This message from the Iowa Department of Public Safety, Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau.
I want a superhero party!
This online store doesn't have much superhero stuff. Are you sure that's what you want?
I said I want a superhero party!
Avoid the hassle. Shop Party Productions, where you'll find hundreds of birthday themes in stock. And now through March 2nd during the Customer Appreciation Sale, you'll save on everything in the store. That's 20% savings on superhero parties, graduation parties, costumes, and more. You'll even save 10% on food. Don't miss the Customer Appreciation Sale at Party Productions, 1919 First Avenue North, Fort Dodge. Some exclusions apply.
Ever wonder why Europeans seem to speak so many languages? Maybe it's because they use Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Babbel's award-winning technology gets you speaking right away, whether you're learning Spanish, French, or German. And best of all, you'll remember what you've learned.
I always thought I was bad at languages, but after using Babbel, I can tell you I was just taught the wrong way.
Using Babbel's 10 to 15-minute lessons, you can be speaking confidently in your new language within weeks.
I was amazed that I could start having real-life conversations right away. It was so fast. Now I'm speaking Spanish. Woohoo!
No wonder Babbel is the #1 selling language learning app in Europe. Try it for yourself and see why Babbel is the quick way to get conversational in a new language, like Spanish, French, or more. You can try Babbel for free. Go to Babbel.com or download the app and try it for free. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com, or download the app to try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
To be honest with you guys, I'm happy to be out of the house after the 18 hours of Facebookery this afternoon. I have no memory of what I was doing before Facebook. Something was there. I was doing, what was it, tilling wheat? What was I doing?
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Yeah, I think I was past 50 when Facebook came around, and I've been on it ever since. I don't know what happened to my life ever since then. AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. We're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. We welcome to the program once again, of course, Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Are you on duty today? Or
I am on duty today.
And by the way, you can see Chief Porter and I and hear everything we say by going to YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in 1400 KVFD, and there we are. The reason I'm asking Roger, some of you who follow us on YouTube faithfully, and you might notice that Roger's not in his uniform as he usually is. He's you have the sweats on here or something, aren't you?
I got some khakis on and a Fort Dodge PD.
Fort Dodge PD, so I know who you are, and you are working today.
I am working today.
Okay, all right. If you have a question or comment for Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter, it's 515-955-1400. Let's stay away from questions like my brother's in jail. Why? You know, if you have a legitimate question about the operation of the police department, that's fine. 515-955-1400. Let's talk about an arrest that was made for arson. What was this situation about?
Well, the arrest hasn't been made yet. We had a couple last week. We had a fire at a residence here in town, and our investigators investigated it, and was deemed suspicious, and we were able to identify through the evidence and through talking to witnesses and whatnot, identify a suspect in it, and we end up getting him charged. And he hasn't been arrested yet. We're still looking for him.
So he's charged, but we haven't seen him yet.
Correct. He's charged with arson first degree, and we're still looking for him.
You know, I don't want to put this guy in the same category as a murderer, but there are still a couple of unsolved murders. Years and years ago, you remember the Halloween murder in 1982, 1981 maybe, but I was living down in the south part of town. I was living down on South 20th Street and 9th Avenue, and one of my neighbors, an 80-year-old man, it was Halloween, and he went to the door, and there was an adult standing there in a Halloween mask, and the guy said, "This is a stick-up, Halloween or a trick-or-treat, or I'll kill you." And the old man was an old Fort Dodge guy. He was 80-some years old, right at 80. And he said, "Nah, I don't think so." Started to fight with the guy. Well, the miscreant shot and killed him. Yeah. And that crime has never been solved. I like to think that we still can do that. Way back in 1971, there was a gas station right across from what was then South Junior High. A couple of guys floated in there and shot the attendant for no reason at all, and nobody's seen him since, and nobody knows them since. But those are 1971 is getting quite a long time ago, and so is 1982, frankly. But as far as I know, there's still no statute of limitations on murder, and that would be great to have those terrible crimes straightened up.
Absolutely.
Those are just particularly heinous. Go to an 80-year-old man's house and shoot him, and then the gas station attendant in 1971 gave him the money, and the guys were leaving, turned around and shot him, from what I understand. That was almost as bad as that situation where that guy from Minneapolis killed those poor people. One in Algona, one in Humboldt. That's been 7, 8 years ago, maybe more. At least they found him. They found him over in Webster City, sleeping in a parking lot. Yeah. He's doing, that guy's absolutely remorseless. He thought the whole thing was kind of a joke.
He's a sociopath.
He really is, isn't he? Yeah, and just oddly, a kid I knew in Algona. I went to the public school, and my friend Matt Riley went to Garrigan. But he became, long story short, an inspector in the Minneapolis Police Department. He was aware of this kid, and he comes from a good family, but he was trouble all the time.
That's what the backstory I heard on that was that you're exactly right. He would come from a good family and everything, and just some people are wired differently. I'm not sure, but it almost seems like in his case, the robberies were second. His primary was to hurt somebody,
just to kill somebody. Yeah, I mean there are people like that.
And some very good people paid the price for that.
And the Marine Corps tries to spider. There's people who join the Marine Corps just so they can get sent over, or advanced infantry units in the Army and Navy SEALs. Oh boy, I'm going to get to go kill somebody. Yeah. Well, they get rid of those people.
Yeah, those aren't the ones you want.
Those are not the ones you want because there's a screw loose there.
Yeah, absolutely, there's something wrong.
There's one thing. It's one thing to be in combat, but to just purposely want to go overseas and kill somebody. That's something else. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of a morbid discussion, but I would like to point out there's still a couple of notorious crimes in our city that are going back a number of years that still haven't been solved. And somebody somewhere knows something about it.
Absolutely.
And of course, we still have the Mr. Preston north of town. They left him in a field. And the other young man over in, I'm talking about, they found Whitty. They found him dead in his car.
Yep.
Those are unsolved as well.
Yep, we've had a couple of them here in the last number of years. But
yeah,
there's a few a lot more recent than the ones you were talking about. And I remember the Halloween night one. I was in high school. I think I was a freshman in high school at the time. I remember that case. I don't remember the 71 one though.
That's a little early. That was
probably riding my big wheel at that time.
That was murders weren't so commonplace then, and I wasn't even living in Fort Dodge then, but I remember hearing about it. It was kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
It was because it was so cold-blooded and ruthless.
All right.
It's one thing to go in and rob a place, but after the guy gives you all the money and then just as an afterthought, shoot him and kill him, that's just terrible.
Yeah,
who knows?
They're wired wrong. Yeah.
They are definitely wired wrong. I've asked you about what the police department, if the police department does anything special or different, as a big storm is impending. Like apparently we're getting another one overnight. So probably
like getting up to 9 inches. It sounds like possibly. And
I've heard all kinds of things, but it sounds like a lot of snow.
On top of what we just got here the last couple of days. So yeah, we try to go around and get the streets cleared. Additional assignments that our officers do, try to get the people to move the cars before the plows come out, and try to give them enough advance notice so we don't have to tow. They don't want to be out there towing the cars any more than you want your car towed. So
I asked you about that the last time we talked because I know somebody who got busted a couple of times doing that. Yeah. Actually, it was me. Left my car out here on 2nd Avenue North that got towed. So a plow comes along and sees a car in a snow route. Do they call you guys or?
Yeah. Well, on the snow routes, when the snow route goes into effect, they have to be removed from the street immediately. And anything that's not on a snow route, there's a city ordinance that says you can't park on the street longer than 24 hours.
Right.
And so they hit those streets later on. And then obviously if the last snowfall was 24 hours ago and you haven't seen any tire roots or anything going in or out, then it's pretty obvious. And they need to get those streets cleared just as much as they do the snow route areas. So we'll go around and either chalk those tires and check them then 24 hours later, or if we get called on by a street plow or something, we'll check those and see if they've been there for 24 hours or longer, and then we have to hook them if we can't find the owner or somebody to come out and move the vehicle. So
is that 24-hour thing, is that year round? I thought you can't leave your car in the street
right. That's
longer than 24 hours.
That's just a straight city ordinance that 24 hours, you gotta have to have your car moved. And again, it's one of those things that in the wintertime, it's a lot more obvious when you have a brim of snow going all the way around your car and it hasn't been obviously moved. And so it's a lot more obvious. Most of the time it's complaint driven when we come in and enforce those because we don't know what's parked and where, and usually a neighbor does, and they may call on it or something. So outside of the snowy time of the year, the enforcement of those are pretty much complaint driven. So
years ago, I lived next door to a guy who's really a nice guy. He was a great neighbor, and he and his wife were great people. And I saw a car kind of out in front of their house, but a little bit further down the street. And it was an old beat-up car without license plates. And it sat there for about a week, and I thought, well, this is stolen or abandoned or something. So I called the police department. Sure enough, they came down, looked at it, and towed it. Oh, my neighbor, the nice guy, it was his car. He had bought it and was going to restore it.
Oh, yeah.
I just felt so bad.
Yeah, we do get a lot of those. We have found some that have been stolen and left on the streets, and we're in a parking lot or whatnot. So,
Yeah, it looked like an abandoned car to me. No plates, cracked windshield, the whole thing, you know, and I didn't even think. Anyway, so much for that. Yeah, that was another mistake. But anyway, and he did put it in his driveway after that.
Yeah.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest is Police Chief Roger Porter. We do want to say congratulations once again. We haven't had a chance to say congratulations yet to the Fort Dodge Senior High wrestlers.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Third place. We had a couple of champions. Good job. We kind of almost expected Ayala to win.
Yeah.
Didn't really know about Taylor. Knew he was a great wrestler, but he came through. And,
yeah, you know, I know his parents, and I know he's been working real hard at it, and it prevailed this weekend. He was wrestling really well this weekend.
Yeah.
So.
Who won? Did Southeast Folk win?
Yeah, I believe that's who it
I
was.
think that's those guys.
Yeah.
They're just ridiculous. They are ridiculous, but yeah, it was a great effort. If we have a wrestling team that's capable of getting a first place as a team 1 year and a third the next, we're doing okay.
We got a lot of guys coming back next year. So.
Yeah, a lot of guys coming back.
It's a young team, so.
Ayala's only a sophomore, isn't he?
Yeah, sophomore.
Yeah.
You got a couple 8th graders that are up and coming too that are pretty good. So.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good for them.
So
Good for
they
them.
should be looking pretty good, hopefully.
Yeah, they should be looking pretty good. I'll have to try to remember to get Bobby Thompson or Tanner Utley or something to come in a little bit later.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. 515-955-1400 if you have a question or comment for the chief of police. Is there anything special going on over as far as education? Like, what am I trying to think of? Oh, the 6-week course you guys put on every now and then.
Oh, the Citizens Academy?
Citizens. God, I couldn't get it.
We're taking applications now. We do have some already on file, and that'll be in the fall. So we're going to be doing that.
Oh, it won't be until the fall.
Right.
Do you just do one a year?
Yes.
Okay.
One a year in the fall.
AM 1400 KVFT. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah. Check, I guess if it happened or I missed out on it, but whatever happened to the body camera issue?
Oh,
Did you ever get those or what happened there?
Outstanding question.
Did we get them? Is that what
Did you get the body cameras? Are they in operation or what's going on?
Absolutely. Yep. We have thanks to the businesses and the citizens, and they donated a lot of money to that. And we've actually had them in. Every officer has one that's on the street right now for about a year now. So we've had them in place for about a year, and they've been very, very good. And yep, we're up and going with those. So
that's a great question. I forgot all about it.
One other question was, do you guys ever get tasers for the officers instead of guns, or how are you leaning on that?
Well, we do have tasers. We've had tasers for quite a number of years. It won't be instead of guns, but we do have tasers. I think we've had those for, probably 7-8 years at least.
Okay. All right. All righty.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think most police departments have the tasers now. I see even in Humboldt, out going to some of the smaller towns, they've had the tasers for a long time.
Yeah, it's another tool on the belt that they can use, a form of less lethal when that's an option. And it's the pepper spray and all that stuff. It used to be big when I started, and you don't see a lot of officers carrying that anymore because that gets everybody, even the officers involved.
Oh yeah.
So, and the taser's quick, and you can get them to comply. And a lot of times, just the mere sight of showing the taser gets them to comply, and that's what we want, is just compliance.
Compliance,
right? Fight. I don't want to get. I'm too old to get hurt like that. I can't. I don't bounce back like I used to. So
that's right. Several years ago, there was a incident out at a senior high football game. A bunch of kids were fighting or acting like they wanted to fight, pushing each other, and policeman couldn't get it under control. So he said, "Watch it, I'm going to pepper spray it." Well, finally he had to. Yeah, he pepper sprayed everybody. I don't think he intended to. But he got the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah, you get out in the wind and stuff. It once it gets out of the can, it's going to go everywhere, especially with that wind and stuff blowing around. So it
was a fall evening. We had a little breeze.
It don't take much.
Yeah. I've
had officers get me a number of times when they're trying to get somebody else.
Is there? I just remember I got a little bit of taste of it in my mouth. I really didn't.
Officers, during our training, officers have to get tased, and we have to get OC'd and stuff in order to carry that stuff. So, I mean, I've been tased and I've been OC'd before.
OC means the pepper spray?
The pepper spray, yeah. And I tell you what, I would rather, the taser was bad enough, but it made you comply, but I'd rather get tased every time over getting pepper sprayed.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Well, I've seen several times on television, of course, an officer or somebody being tased. It does not look pleasant at all. But you're saying that the pepper spray is even worse.
Taser, when you get tased, you get that 5-second jolt, and that's it. Then you're done. That pepper spray lasts for hours on end after you get hit with that stuff.
Well, Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau is out in the hallway. He'll be up next. He's probably been tased and pepper sprayed both. He's a wild man in his early days, isn't it? All right, Roger Porter has been our guest. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
These are the new leads. These are the Glengarry leads. And to you, they're gold. And you don't get them. Why? Because to give them to you.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
Yeah, Steve Peterson of the Webster County Farm Bureau is next. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Come on.
This is Chris Heslop with Star Energy FS. If your business doesn't stop for cold weather, neither should your equipment. The professionals at Star Energy FS know that performance counts. SureFlow keeps your fuel flowing by preventing ice and wax molecules from plugging filters and fuel lines. Minimize your downtime and protect your engines all winter long. FS SureFlow delivers strong cold temperature performance, improved fuel efficiency, and optimum lubricity. Contact your FS specialist today about SureFlow, diesel fuel cold flow improver.
Let's face it, everyone loves to shop. From my experience of meeting a famous politician in the Hermes store in Paris,
to my unforgettable experience test driving my first 600 horsepower car, in which I said, I'll take it before it even hit 60 miles an hour.
we are pretty sure everyone has at least one unforgettable shopping experience. Hello, we are Carrie and Ken, founders of Income Store. Have you ever considered shopping for your next income? And we don't mean your next job. Did you know that you can walk into Income Store's website through a door on the left or a door on the right?
If you're just starting out or you simply have more time than money, you're going to enter our website on the left. If you've got more money than time, then definitely the right door is for you.
If you're looking to increase revenue in your home or business and would like to create a brand new, greatest shopping memory, all you have to do is change where you shop. Check out one of the two doors at incomestore.com.
That's incomestore.com.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. A semi-truck carrying pigs collided with a grain truck near Manson on Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. Sergeant Aaron Schmidt with the Iowa State Patrol has more.
There was a semi that was traveling northbound on Van Buren Avenue, which is a gravel road. Semi pulled up to the stop sign and stopped. And at that point, the weather conditions were dense fog in the area. Visibility was probably less than an eighth of a mile. They stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to pull out in front of an eastbound semi that was on Highway 7. And they collided in that intersection.
Schmidt says there was one injury in the accident.
One minor injury, the semi-driver of the eastbound semi, he had a laceration to his head that required medical attention, but he was conscious and alert when we talked to him.
Schmidt says the semi carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. The cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dane Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K through 12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending plans. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge 332. First of all, on the weather, well, you kind of know what's going to happen. 100% chance of heavy snow overnight into tomorrow morning. I could only describe this weather forecast as sucking big time. Mostly cloudy the rest of the afternoon. Wind chill factor temperatures will get down there around 0. Overnight, again, snow, and more snow, heavy at times. Please be careful driving. Our temperature, low temperature will be around 22 degrees by 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Wind chill factor temperature maybe 5 below, but the snow is the big story. Tomorrow, more snow, probably off and on until 4 o'clock. Maybe a little snow, flurries until 6 or 7 in the evening. Yeah, just a bunch of snow tomorrow. On Thursday, sunny with a high of 23. Friday, mostly cloudy, high 31. That's good, a little warmer. 35 on Saturday. Sunday, we have a chance of snow again. Not a very good chance, but a chance. Mostly cloudy with a high of 26. It'll be very windy on Sunday. Monday, a chance of snow, just a slight chance of snow. Sunny with a high of 21. Right now in Fort Dodge, it's 18 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down a nickel at 3.69 3/4. May down 4 3/4 at 3.78. July down 4 1/2 at 3.86. And December corn down 2 1/2 at 3.96 3/4. March soybeans down 6 3/4 at $9.75. May down 7 at 9.14 1/2. July down 7 cents at 9.28. And November down 6 1/4 at 9.45 3/4. March wheat closed down 14 1/2 at 4.89 3/4. Soybean meal down 1.10 a ton at 3.0540. February live cattle up 125 at 127.87. April up 127 at 128.45. March feeders up 115 at 143.75. April up 77 at 146. April lean hogs down $3 at 56.52, and May also down that $3 limit to close at 65.45. I'm Dwayne Murley.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
Save big money this week during Menards Priced Right sale. From modular systems to pre-finished shelving and closet kits, Dakota Shelving makes it easy to create your own custom storage space. Organize your home with 15 3/4 inch deep, 8-foot long pre-finished shelving. Right now, 4 finishes are on sale for just $7.99 each after rebate. Find these and other great deals going on now through February 23rd during Menards Priced Right sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Even with advancements in seed genetics and traits, environmental factors can still chip away at your crop's yield potential. That's why Arista Life Science developed Unlock 5, strategies designed to maximize plant development efficiency at each stage of the crop life cycle. Unlock 5 promotes stronger plant health and your crop's ability to endure stress, helping release more of its true genetic potential and optimizing return. Talk to your Arista Life Science rep or visit unlockyourcrop.com to learn more.
Corn and soybean growers have a new in-furrow partner that can take convenience and productivity to new levels. Introducing Tepera Plus, fungicide plus insecticide from Arista Life Science. Extremely compatible with liquid fertilizers, Tepera Plus combines a highly systemic and residual fungicide, fluoxystrobin, with the insecticide bifenthrin to help your crop start healthy and finish strong. Ask your retailer about easy-to-use Tepera Plus. Tepera Plus is a restricted-use pesticide. Always read and follow label directions.
AM 1400, KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 2:36. A lot of snow coming overnight. If you're driving or if you must drive, please be careful. Pretty dangerous out there overnight. Obituaries this night on this hour coming. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Marianne Jensen has passed away. Marianne Jensen of Fort Dodge died at the age of 102 over the weekend at Bickford here of Fort Dodge Assisted Living. Services will be at 11 o'clock Friday at St. Olaf Lutheran Church. That's for Marianne Jensen, who lived to be 102. Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services, serving the family. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Steve Peterson with the Webster County Farm Bureau is here. I'll straighten out my mouth, and Steve will give us a report coming up next at AM 1400 KVFD.
First State Bank, first for you.
First State Bank and its ag lenders are first for you. They have the desire to work with you and the authority to make their decisions locally. When it comes to agriculture, they strive to be your #1 financial institution leader. Stop in or give Fort Dodge Ag Loan officers Craig Barber or Emily Lawler a call to see how they can help you grow. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
First State Bank, first for you.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
You're saying a lot of words really fast that mean nothing.
Michael Devine, the doctor of truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. If you'd like to confess, just call. I'll give you absolution right here on the air. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. No, I'm not Monsignor Devine now. I'm just your regular old radio guy. And if you have a question or comment, you can always call this program by dialing 515-955-1400. This portion of the program, by the way, brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. And with us now, past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, Steve Peterson. How are you, Steve?
Good. How you doing, Mike?
Glad you got into town before the big snow, buddy.
This has been about the nicest drive up here I've had in the last couple of weeks. So,
well, I'll tell you, we got to the end of January there. You know, we got through Christmas really without snow, I think. And really the first couple of weeks of
December was unusually nice. And,
yeah.
And January, I guess, for the most part, seemed to
first 2 weeks were okay. Then we had that god-awful cold.
Yeah, it got really cold.
40, 50 degrees below.
And now it seems we are in Mother Nature's path once again. So,
well, she ain't messing with us either, is she?
No, it's but as long as the ice and stuff is pretty tolerable, the roads are pretty darn nice out in the countryside. The fog, I know, was pretty treacherous this morning. That was the dangerous part. Everything was frosted. Just south of Slifer, there was a semi that it tried its best to get upside down in the ditch, but it got hung up on the side of the road. It looks like he just kind of lost sight where he was at. And then I see there was an accident on Highway 7 by Manson where looked like a grain truck and a truck carrying hogs got in an accident in the fog. So
that ain't no good.
It's kind of a dangerous deal. And, you know, something I know a lot of vehicles, my pickup this morning, the automatic headlights don't come on. you know, you got to turn those on manual if you want headlights. It's just fog's kind of a dangerous thing, especially you throw some slick roads on.
Oh yeah, fog and those slick roads, I hate that.
Yeah, that's probably about the worst case scenario right now. So, but hopefully we'll get past that. We'll get through this next round, and what I hear anywhere from 5 to 8 inches, and then it looks like maybe again this weekend we get another round of it. So
yeah, that's just really great. I drove up to Algona on Friday to visit my mom because she mentioned on the phone I only live 45 miles away, but I only see her twice a year. So I said, okay, I'm going. So, but I got, especially north of Humboldt, I started to see cars in the ditch from the night before, and every one of them was a 4-wheel drive. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
People get in those 4-wheel drives, they think, no, I can't go off the road. I have a 4-wheel drive. Right?
It gives you maybe sometimes a little false sense of security.
It sure does.
Yeah, so we're getting here towards the ends of February, and I know there's a lot of farmers going to start getting the itch to do something, hoping for a nice March to kind of make up for the fall we had last year, but that's beginning to come into question right now. So we'll see.
I hope this isn't leading into another nasty weather year.
Yeah, we don't need like last year where it snowed right up the time we planted, and that was the winter that wouldn't quit last year. So
really,
hopefully the weather will straighten out. I know there's a little bit of cabin fever starting to go on, and you know, on the farm, you know, we're starting to move grain and fill some contracts and whatnot. So there's a lot of activities going on. And
by move grain, you mean you're moving it to the elevator?
Moving it to the elevator to market, you know, elevator, an ethanol plant, or a processor of some sort. So you're starting to see a lot of farmsteads where some activities going on, and especially just today I did notice a couple. I'm sure they're trying to get it done before the snow. That always complicates things. You know, it never makes anything any easier. And so yeah, we're starting to see that, and it's that time of year for us. I know there's a lot of agronomy meetings going on right now. My mailbox is getting hit with things from everything as far as salesmen and different products and whatnot. Every one of them's the best, and
of course
it's going to make you money. So yeah, it's an interesting time of year that way. And you know, and locally tomorrow night I know we have our board meeting, and we're going to meet with the Webster County supervisors and kind of go over some of the things in the county with them. And that's usually a pretty informational meeting for us, and it kind of gets us up to speed what's going on out in the rural side of the county. And then tomorrow we were supposed to go to
do all the supervisors come to that?
I've seen them all there at times. Usually there's
they have their committees, you know. That's why I'm asking.
Sure.
I didn't know if they had special committees.
It's usually a pretty good turnout. I mean, there's usually a few that aren't there, and then I know last year we invited Sheriff Stubbs to come too, and because that gets to be that's actually a kind of a conversation that we could almost have standalone anymore, because with the decrease in rural population and the our police or our sheriff's department, law enforcement in the rural side is always a challenging duty for them, because they have a large area to cover, and we've kind of seen some spurts in rural vandalisms and break-ins and what, like, so it is interesting to hear his perspective on what's going on. And
you talking about the sheriff?
Yeah. So
Stubbs is a good man,
and that's something that we've kind of started to get a little more interest in, I guess. And I know there's a lot of farmers, it seems like with the innovation of LED lights, there's a lot more lights on farmsteads. That's kind of an easy one to do, is just, instead of sit there in the dark with the old dim yard light that we used to have years ago, you're starting to see a lot more security lights and stuff like that. And there's a lot of farmers that are investing in surveillance cameras and motion detectors and that kind of stuff also.
I have them in my house here in town. We do have some thieves in town. And there's people, no doubt, that prowl the countryside looking for something to steal.
Yep. And it kind of seems like it goes in patterns too. So that's something, that's good to keep on, and what they're seeing too. So if there's anything, we can relay to our members that helps them out, feel that's a valuable piece of information.
Security system I would recommend. They're not that much. You can get a pretty good one even for the farm for $500-600.
Yeah,
and it's a tax deduction.
Right. So, we were just at the elevator having coffee the other morning, and I remember as a little kid, it was I believe back in the early 80s. Kind of the farm crisis deal, there was a lot of grain theft back then.
Oh yeah,
and there was farmers that would put it was basically like confetti, and that confetti had an ID number in it, and it was basically to verify that was your grain, because back in the day of the old corn cribs, there was people pulling in and they'd knock the slide gate open and just load up a small wagon or even the back of a pickup with grain,
right.
and
away they go.
Away they went. So those were some measures back in that day that kind of fit the bill there. But it's we're supposed to go to the Capitol tomorrow. That's been postponed, so I don't know when that's going to happen. We're assuming we're going to be dug out by tomorrow night for the supervisors, but we are postponing our Farm Bureau Day at the Capitol. And that'll probably, I'm going to guess, be in the next week or so. I was kind of keeping up on what was going on down there. It looks like, to me right now, they're just finally kind of getting back to, I guess, what I would call normal legislation. It looks like they've been hammering out the school stuff, and rightly so. That's needed to allow the school systems to get their budgets put in order. And in years past, I know that's kind of gotten delayed, and that really puts the local schools under some time constraints, or even in a pickle when they're supposed to have their stuff done, but our elected officials can't get their stuff done. So, but since that's all been ironed out, and I believe the governor signed that education spending bill, I think that she signed it today even.
Yeah. And, well, I went looking for my paper here a minute ago. Now I can't find it.
So, now it looks like they're going to get back to kind of what I would call normal order of going through the bills and debates and what we would consider normal legislative process. And really the hot button tickets for Farm Bureau hasn't changed. The SAVE, and we'd like to get the beginning farmer funding that was stripped last year, get that back up to 100%. And then there's always going to be the conversation of water quality and conservation practices and stuff like that. So that's kind of the Senator Kreinbrink probably says, I've heard it out of his mouth so many times, the 82% of the budget is pretty much pre-spent when they go down there. We're really only talking about the last 18% or so of the budget that has to feed everything else in the state. So while those scraps, monetarily are large, it is a fight, and there's a lot of interest trying to vie for those remaining dollars. And last year with we remember it well. A lot of people probably wouldn't, but Senate 512 that finally gave us some dedicated money into the conservation effort. So we kind of got baked into that dedicated funding cake. And now there's, to continue and grow, we can hopefully identify some other areas and work with the legislators to fill those priorities too. So every year is different. On the big stage, Senator Grassley, he's been talking about, he's trying to push President Trump to give a little reprieve in the steel and aluminum tariffs that are out there, to a little good faith gesture to try to get the USMCA trade pact.
That's still not done.
No, it's still not done. And hopefully the partisanship won't get in the way of getting something like that done for the heartland here, in the United States. So we look to get that deal ratified, at least by the United States. I don't believe it's been ratified by Canada or Mexico either, and those governments likewise would have to also verify that treaty. And another kind of thing I'm hearing some rumblings about in Washington, Ted Cruz is back in the news with Iowa.
What did he do now?
Well, if we remember last year, he pretty much held the Senate hostage on Bill Northey's confirmation. Well, now he's got a new person in his crosshairs, and that's the new EPA elect official to run the EPA, the Andrew Wheeler. And it looks like Mr. Cruz is doing a little saber rattling in that arena now, and why Andrew Wheeler, or the new EPA director, is particularly of interest here to the Midwest is he is would be the director of the EPA, which is currently writing the rules for year-round E15. So if we want to see that become a actual part of the United States law and allow the sales of E15 all year round, we need that to happen. And by not confirming Mr. Wheeler, that's another distraction in that. And then also the EPA currently just opened up the comment period, which is after they introduce a rule, then they usually give like a 90-day period for parties on both sides to either raise complaints or praise or whatever, pro or con against the particular rule on the waters of the U.S. rule. And this new rule that's been written has gained praise, I believe, from every agricultural interest group that I know of. And it brings a little clarity. The existing rule that was done in 2015 was a little cryptic on its language, what was actually under federal jurisdiction of a water. And I mean, it was things that have never been wet before. If there was a mud puddle in your driveway, that's technically could have fallen under the statute of the EPA and been under the federal jurisdiction. And it's just a lot of confusion. And basically it was clear as mud. And there was a big push to get those rules rewritten. So those are some important things to get done. The initial EPA director, Scott Pruitt, which was the initial pick from President Trump, he kind of lost favor, I think, with a lot of people. He was living a little lavish out there, and it didn't seem like he had the best interest of the conservative base, I guess, that would have liked to seen a little different person in there. So, and he definitely
he didn't seem to pay much attention to Midwestern farmers and their concerns about ethanol.
Not at all. And he was a very big supporter of these RIN waivers, which is it's a credit that the refiners were getting from mixing ethanol in. And actually, I did read a piece that there's one particular refinery out in the East Coast that was like the biggest and user of those RIN or getting the exemptions, I guess, and it's back in trouble again too. So and
RINs stands for
I knew you'd ask me that. Another acronym,
and I should know it myself because I
renewable identification number. Right, there we go. And so basically, when they blend, I think for practical purposes, when they blend a gallon of ethanol, then they receive a credit for that gallon of ethanol. And those gallons, though, or those credits can actually be traded. So they could move those to different, areas or whatnot. And that's within the fuel industry. That's nothing really to do with the ethanol plants here in the Midwest. That's only at the refiner level that they're issuing and trading these credits. And basically, from what I understand, those credits, they could file a hardship waiver. Well, some of these oil industries, they're still netting billions of dollars in profits, but they can fill out a hardship waiver and then they don't have to do that.
Sure.
And they were kind of manipulating the system, I think would be a fair way to say it. And I believe just last year, they basically manipulated enough RINs that would completely make the ethanol industry in Iowa disappear. So,
oh, really?
I mean, it's on a big scale that they were doing this. So that's something that, it's a completely different subject than the E15, but the RIN area needs to be cleaned up and managed a little properly for E15 if we just allow them to run wild with the RINs, the E15 really does nothing. It doesn't move the needle at all.
Yeah.
And E15.
Are we getting E15 year round or not?
Well, that's what's in its comment period, or the rules are being written right now in the EPA. That's why it's important to get Andrew Wheeler, who is a good supporter of that seated as the EPA director, and then push that through. And then
this is very frustrating. I drink a lot if I was a farmer, probably starting at breakfast. That USMCA, I thought that was a done deal a year ago. I thought this RIN situation, or I thought the E15 thing was going to be a done deal.
Their proposals,
right? I know,
and now it's unfortunately they kind of have to go through the political process. So it's not necessarily a done deal. There's a lot of hiccups and past going forward to this, but Mr. Cruz again is getting front and center, being the voice of the oil companies.
Yes, he is,
and not necessarily wanting to put Mr. Wheeler at the helm of the EPA to spearhead this E15 and the RIN situation against them.
I wonder how Congressman King thinks about being Cruz's campaign manager here in 2016.
Well, as an Iowa farmer, I kind of wonder how in the world did Cruz win the primary in Iowa a few years back?
Well, that's what I mean. King was in there, and
I mean, we really kind of got the wool pulled over us on that. As
boy, we did.
I'm certain that would never happen again.
Well, he was no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. I'd be blistering State Cruz every chance I got. At the time, he was talking some good, solid common sense, some basic traditional patriotism.
He did
America first type stuff,
Yeah, and there was, even though he was a Texas, politician,
Texas oil guy, yeah.
Texas politician.
We didn't really know he was such a Texas oil guy
right
at the time.
Yeah, and he's really showed his colors in there.
He has.
So I mean, the road through Iowa for him, if he ever wanted to run again, I don't think would be very favorable.
He might as well get his big butt up to New Hampshire because we don't want to see him around here. We really don't. I mean, he's cost people money.
Yeah, so it's but like I said, he was pretty instrumental in derailing Bill Northey's confirmation,
right?
And that was a pretty, I mean, Bill Northey's got a great position in the Department of Agriculture, but it was not a controversial position to put him there. It was just to hold things up, He just because Senator Grassley, they just had a kind of a game of chicken, I guess, to pay, and Bill Northey was the unfortunate victim in that little feud. So, but yeah, we're probably going to hear some more out of Mr. Cruz here in the few weeks as this, I think, gets pushed. So, but yeah, Senator Grassley, he's really pushing to kind of as a good faith gesture. Let's back off those steel and aluminum tariffs, and let's get the USMCA signed, which is the replacement for the NAFTA agreement. And like I said, it doesn't change a lot about ag here in Iowa, but it does a good thing for our dairy producers, and it looks like it's a pretty good thing for the industrial worker as far as some minimum or standards on wages and part sources and stuff like that. So I think it would be a winning deal for a lot of industries in America.
Well, so to secure the border would be the biggest thing we could do for industrial workers and farm workers all together, because it's Econ 101. If you increase the supply of something like labor, I know you're not going to agree with me here, Steve, but if you increase the supply of something like labor and open up the borders, the demand goes down, supply and demand. So you'll drive down the labor base. As a matter of fact, Steve King told me on the air that that's who he thinks is behind Randy Feenstra, is some big ag concerns up in Northwest Iowa who are looking for illegal labor. Yeah,
and and like we've had discussions on here, we need labor in agriculture.
We do. Yeah.
We're seeing it more and more around here, but you get into a lot of things that we don't think about as agriculture. You go down to the southern states where there's a huge manual presence still in vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. There's a huge demand, and they need an immigrant base in a work visa type program, but there also has to be some safety factors in there too.
They've had a guest worker program in California since the Second World War.
Yeah.
I mean, they put out a notice. We need people in the fields. This is stoop labor. This is tough stuff, by the way. And people come here. They check in at the border. Okay, I'm going to be here this long. This is where I'm going to stay. This is who's hired me. Yep. They go up there and work for 4 months, and they go home.
Yeah.
Perfect.
When I was younger, we did detasseling, and we did that as high school kids. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seemed like high school kids didn't want to do it anymore, and we got replaced with crews of Mexican descent,
Right. Steve Peterson with the Webster County Farm Bureau is here, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is KVFD in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Predicting victory. Lisa Brady, Fox News. The president sounding confident about the legal challenge he expected over his continued push to build the wall. Fox's John Decker is live at the White House.
President Trump reacting to the federal lawsuit filed by 16 states challenging the president's national emergency declaration to pay for a southern border wall and accusing the president of flagrant disregard for the separation of powers.
And I think we'll do very well. We have absolute right to do that. I have an absolute right to call national security. We need strong borders.
House Democratic leaders are considering a lawsuit of their own, arguing that under Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, Congress alone has the power to appropriate funds. Lisa?
Thanks, John. Meantime, President Trump is denying a New York Times report that he asked then acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker to put a different federal prosecutor in charge of New York investigations of his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen.
No, not at all. I don't know who gave you that. Just more fake news. There's a lot of fake news out there. No, I didn't.
Whitaker recently told Congress the president never asked him to interfere with any investigation. A lawsuit aiming to stop construction of the Obama Presidential Library in Chicago wins a green light to continue. A parks advocacy group taking issue with the location beside Lake Michigan and with the approval process. The group Protect Our Parks arguing that park land was illegally transferred to a private entity, the Obama Foundation. City attorneys argue the group misread the law and exaggerated potential environmental disruptions. On Wall Street, after losing some ground, stocks still finish higher. The Dow up about 9 points at the closing bell, just under 25,900. The S&P and the NASDAQ also in the green. This is Fox News.
Attention, everyone. I have a President's Day pro tip. You need to go to Dell.com/business deals right now because Dell's President's Day sale is live as we speak, and it's monumental. Get deals on Dell business computers with 8th Gen Intel Core processors and business tech, plus doorbusters up to 45% off. Call 877-BUY-DELL now to talk to Dell's small business technology advisors and get personalized help finding the best tech at President's Day prices. Free shipping included. Again, call 877-BUY-DELL.
This is what Flo from Progressive sounds like in one of our commercials. You may have seen one there on TV occasionally.
And speaking of motorcycle insurance rates, did you know that our basic motorcycle policies start at just $75 a year? And speaking of insurance, I just love
And this is how that same commercial sounds on your motorcycle. Yeah, everything's better on a bike. Progressive keeps you on yours. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Alabama woman who joined ISIS makes a desperate plea to come home.
In a letter released by her attorney, Hoda Muthana says she made a big mistake and didn't understand the importance of freedoms provided by the U.S. Muthana fled her home in 2014 and resurfaced in Syria, where she used social media to call for attacks on America. The 24-year-old also saying she's ready to pay the price for her actions, but wants safety and security for the 18-month-old son she had with one of 2 ISIS fighters she married. Both men were killed in battle. Muthana's attorney says she could have valuable intelligence to pass on to authorities. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
President Trump says his goal for North Korea is still denuclearization, but that he has no pressing time schedule.
Well, there's no testing. I'm in no rush. If there's testing, that's another deal. But there has been no testing.
This just days ahead of his second summit with North Korea's leaders set for next week in Vietnam. The president saying he thinks it'll be very exciting, but not disclosing details of exactly what he hopes can be achieved at the second summit. Police officers in one Texas city will no longer enter buildings on warrants without announcing themselves first.
Houston Chief Art Acevedo says there will be no more common use of so-called no-knock warrants in investigations. He says in a raid last month where 2 suspects were killed and 5 officers were shot or injured, the no-knock warrant was obtained on a false pretense.
We uncovered what we believe to be criminal misconduct, and I hope that that's not lost on anybody.
And Acevedo says there will be consequences.
We're going to have criminal charges on 1 or more police officers.
Acevedo says the warrant may still be utilized, but not without an exemption directly from him. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Recapping the close on Wall Street, stocks finished slightly higher after bigger gains during the session. The Dow up about 8 points to 25,891. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. A semi-truck carrying pigs collided with a grain truck near Manson on Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. Sergeant Aaron Schmidt with the Iowa State Patrol has more.
There was a semi that was traveling northbound on Van Buren Avenue, which is a gravel road. Semi pulled up to the stop sign and stopped. And at that point, the weather conditions were dense fog in the area. Visibility was probably less than an eighth of a mile. They stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to pull out in front of an eastbound semi that was on Highway 7. And they collided in that intersection.
Schmidt says there was one injury in the accident.
One minor injury, the semi driver of the eastbound semi, he had a laceration to his head that required medical attention, but he was conscious and alert when we talked to him.
Schmidt says the semi carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. and the cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dane Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K through 12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending plans. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter storm warning begins at midnight tonight and continues until noon tomorrow. 17 this afternoon, under cloudy skies, east winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Snow likely tonight, 16, overcast. Snow likely again tomorrow, high of 28, cloudy. 5 to 10 inches of snow tonight through tomorrow. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 18.
Tough as nails, nerves of steel. If you've come to test our metal, you better tighten up your chin strap. Get amped up for all the gridiron action on the Panther Sports Network.
University of Northern Iowa Sports are brought to you on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, by Mitch Lund State Farm, Party Productions, The Other Store, and New Age Media. Catch UNI Sports right here on the Voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Cars that sound like this. Trust Pennzoil Synthetics to protect their engines in extreme conditions. Top racing teams know that Pennzoil Synthetics give them the performance to help them succeed. And your car's engine deserves the same, because your daily commute is no less important. Get complete protection for top engine performance, just like the pros. Go to Pennzoil.com/oil change offer to save. Terms apply.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Here I am, single, unemployed, inexplicably 2 inches shorter than last year. It's like your lives are chugging forward and mine's just slipping backwards.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, we're smoking. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. You never thought you'd see or hear about that again. KVFD, land of Perry Como, smoking. All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. And with us now, past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, Steve Peterson. So, what are those guys doing out in the hallway? You hear that noise out there in the hallway?
I do.
I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're going to get. I keep expecting to hear a big pop or a
flash of light.
Right, and those guys are disintegrated by 100,000 watts of electricity back there, or whatever it is they're dealing with. But let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yep.
We don't need to go off the air. Mr. Sympathetic. Anyway, Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau. And again, you're meeting with the supervisors tonight.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. That's right. So I saw them. I went to the Webster County Board of Supervisors meeting today. They didn't have anything to discuss, really.
Okay.
They had a few permits.
I haven't been to one myself for quite a while.
I hadn't either, so I got there today. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, no, I'll have to make an effort to pop in on one here coming up. But there's like I said, we'll go over a lot of things. Randy Will also presents a report, and we'll see what kind of bridge road projects out in the rural side of the county, and there's always some questions and a lot of times about bridges and
sure.
and like we've got a bridge right now by between Gowrie and Farnaville on that paved road, and it's kind of it's a posted bridge. You can only cross one truck at a time, so I think it's in all of a sudden it must not have passed an inspection. So that'll be a question that's brought up, or what's the schedule, and what kind of anticipation of getting that repaired or fixed, so there's various projects around there, and they've done a great job county-wise on the bridges. They do a lot of these box culverts now, which are
they do
kind of a prefab thing.
Mm-hmm.
They used to do the culverts, or the big culverts. I don't know if I can't actually remember the last time they built an actual bridge. It's been a while.
Well, and this is what they did in the early part of the 20th century. They built a lot of really essentially one-lane bridges. I mean, when you had a grain box that was 200 bushels maybe, and or a two-bottom plow and an old Farmall M to get across it, that was fine.
Right.
But of course, we don't have those things anymore.
No, we don't. And so it's vital important to the agriculture out in the rural side to have quality bridges and good roads out there.
Sure.
And but these box culverts have become a very efficient way to a high load structure that's pretty maintenance free, I think, overall. I guess that'd be a good question for them, how long they're expected to last, but I would think quite a while before they deteriorate. So
I would think so. I mean, you have to replace things every 100 years or so, don't you?
Yeah, every now and then you think you would, but so those are some of the questions we'll talk to them about, and you know, and I'm sure taxation and some of that topic will come up, and you know,
yeah, get Keith straighted out on that.
No, I think we're good.
You
now.
think he
we're
worked
good
it out?
now.
Yeah, all right, yeah, you got him all straightened out. Okay.
We're good.
All
we're
right.
good. And so I'm sure there'll be some discussion on that. And the supervisors always they have some ideas they'll bounce off us, and we might bounce a few off them.
Sure.
And it's just the dialogue, and it's good to have a working relationship with them. So, and then but like I said, we were supposed to go to the Capitol tomorrow. That's been put off probably till next week. And short of that, you know, it's just kind of watching the news, our crop reports, you know, with all this trade issue. A lot of the analysts, they literally don't know what's coming or going. You know, the pork and the beef, those markets seem to be kind of bouncing around a little bit. The African swine flu or fever still seems to be increasing in China.
Mhm.
I did see a report now. It has made it outside of China and has now been confirmed in Vietnam. And Vietnam, you know, they're a pretty populated country, and they said that pork is 75% of the total meat consumption in that country. So for swine flu to start, I think it was just found on 3 small farms there, but not a good sign of what there is to come.
Right.
I believe there was some anticipation that it would spread into some of this, you know, because there's probably a lot of those countries, there's not much difference in the borders of them, and people are coming and going, and it's I know it said that the Philippines now has banned pork exports from Vietnam, so you're probably
because of the swine flu,
because they're not wanting to infect their herds either. So,
you know, pork is real popular over those. We talk about pork being popular,
sure,
in China, but a lot of the Asian countries, they're very
pork is a very affordable and easy to raise protein,
right.
And it's in, you know, we you know, beef is, I think, considered a luxury item over there, but for them, you know, we have a lot of investment in time and money in raising cattle. It's you know,
right.
it's just a different type of deal. Your poultry and your poultry especially, that's a pretty quick you know, raising, you know, that the cycle of that animal, but pork is very adaptable, especially for small farmers and you know, and what would probably be a more classical rural environment, you know, in those kind of countries. So,
of course, the Chinese, their concept of beef is dogs. I mean, the Chinese, you know, to them, a dog is livestock.
I can't comment. I don't know.
Yeah, don't. You know, really, there's videos out there that people don't even want to see about what happens in those markets.
Sure,
really, there is. I mean,
but yeah, so that the African swine flu is becoming, you know, it's reaching outside of the Chinese border now. Some of the pros, you know, for American agriculture is we have an abundant, very safe product. You know, worldwide, we are recognized for our food safety and the abundance, you know, and if we, you know, if they buy from us, they know they're going to get a quality product, you know, whether it's pork, beef, chicken, whatever. The moving into these countries, though, we also, like our soybean exports, those animals that are not there anymore, they also ate our soybean meal and
sure.
stuff like that. So it's kind of a catch-22. We're losing a market because the animals aren't there, but we have the potential to go in and gain a market for the protein that's not there either. So ideally we'd sell them the beans and the meat too. But so that's going to be challenging, and you know, that's where the world trade stuff becomes really important. You know, right now there's some pretty high tariffs on American pork going into China, and hopefully, you know, they can. The Chinese are in Washington right now, so they're on this side of the pond right now talking to the American delegates, and everything I'm still hearing is I think the agricultural side of the trade is I don't think there's really much disagreement there. It's all in that intellectual property and theft of technology.
Well, that's where it started anyway.
I think that's where it really was. It just, unfortunately, food and agriculture got weaponized, and
that's exactly right
in that war.
They decided to they thought the Chinese weak point was food.
Yes.
And it always is when you have over 1 billion people.
Sure.
AM 1400 KVFT, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, Mike, I was just wondering if the doctor of data is going to be on this afternoon.
The doctor of data? And who would that be, sir?
You know.
You mean Dinklaw?
No, Menke.
Oh, the doctor. No. He's on Wednesday, too. Yeah, Doc. Yeah, that's great, though. I should have put that together. I'm sorry. Yeah, Matt Dinklaw got some data wrong last week. He's kind of been on my mind since I've been talking with Steve here. But yeah, he'll be on tomorrow at 2. Dr. Data. Yeah, he'll be here.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you very much, Dr. Data. Menke does have it. I'll have to tell you, he's really got it.
So, but yeah, so agricultural wise, there's just a lot of moving components that you kind of lose track of. Just because one thing sounds good, we also have, like I said, we lose out on some markets for some of our other products, and it's a big picture out there, and there's a lot of moving components to it, but hopefully by the time we're planting, I hope we got this March 1st is the self-imposed deadline that the president put on China too, that
right.
If we don't have a deal done by then, there's a lot more tariffs put on. I mean, from pretty substantial tariffs. And I have kind of heard that I think if they can make some progress here this week, there could be an extension possibly put on there. But the Chinese have historically been a little gamey when it comes to some of their commitments, and because they'll change the rules.
Oh yeah.
So I it's going to be interesting what he is satisfied with as being enough of a commitment to possibly extend those. I don't, he's been firm enough. I don't think they're going to play too many games with him.
Well, I hopefully that's the case. Again, when you're negotiating with a completely different culture that way,
sure,
it's hard to imagine what they have to go through. I know you and I have talked before that President Xi, I mean, if he loses face, he could wind up dead somewhere or in a jail cell. Trump doesn't get elected, maybe, or reelected, but the president of China, if he loses face, that's a big deal.
Right. But that country also has to, because they have such honor and respect, and there's some different values in that culture that go a long way.
There is,
So if there's a lot of people, I think if President Trump if he lost a little respect, I don't think they're going to they're not going to care about it. And he's not
about
going
40% of the country that will never respect him. He could cure cancer.
So we, hopefully, like I said, we can get some of these deals done. It won't become too partisan, I guess. On I just hope that the politicians don't play games on our side of the deal,
right?
And make that about keeping track of who's winning and losing type of thing. Because in the end, our country to move forward, we need to do a deal with China, and China needs to do a deal with us.
Sure.
And there's also a lot of other countries, especially with Canada and Mexico too. So it seems like Mexico is I'd say playing ball quite well. It seems to me like with the immigration and housing some of these immigrants at the border. I don't think that would have happened in years past. So it does seem like they're maybe doing some extra steps. And I hope we can get a deal done there. I know locally we still have train loads of corn going down to Mexico. So I do see that out of our local elevators too. So that is I believe we're still on the old NAFTA arrangement. So that technically hasn't gone away. Now at some point they will cancel that, and then it'll kind of force our Congress, I think, to ratify the new deal. And hopefully, we can get some of these done by the time planters are rolling. I think that's going to be pretty important psychologically and economically for us farmers to, make decisions. Because, we'll start, some of us we've already sold crop that we haven't even planted yet.
Mm-hmm.
And those decisions are hard to make when you don't know any certainty in the market. You know, it could go a lot higher, it could go a lot lower. You just don't know. It's all on the risk management side of farming, and that's probably for a lot of years. You know, gambling was a big discussion in Iowa. Well, farmers have been gambling since day one.
Oh yeah,
it's just you know, it's not with velvet tables and chips. You know, we do it.
No. I said it earlier. You know, if I had to put up with some of the stuff farmers do, I'd have breakfast with Jim Beam every single morning. It's not.
Some do, I think.
I think probably some do.
So, I'm sure there are some that do, but you know, it's just you know, as a farmer, you wear a lot of different hats, and you listen. You know, and that's the other thing too. You listen to so much different news. I'm grateful, you know, I get Farm Bureau updates almost every morning, and that's pretty vetted, well sourced material. Some of the stuff, you know, you don't know whether you believe it or not, and that can play psychologically, you know, with an individual too of what they're reading. So a lot of the news sources and where you get it, and but I tend to think the agricultural sources are pretty accurate and factual on their information. So it's going to be interesting, and hopefully we'll get down to Des Moines here in the next, hopefully by next week.
Sure.
And I think I'm not sure when the first funnel is, but that usually it's about this time when they're going to
coming up here next week. I think like the 21st or so. Now, don't hold me to that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. 21st actually is Thursday.
Yeah,
but they're
going to cut the first round of bills, and there's a lot of bills down there. I was kind of reading through some of them, and some of them are they're pretty far out. Some of them, and they'll whittle those down to a manageable group, and then but you know, we're not hearing a whole lot about it. I have heard a little bit. I think traffic cameras might come up again, and
Zahn is bringing those up. Yeah. Well, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 years to get something done. The city council here in Fort Dodge has been having a lot of fun planning on how they're going to restrict fireworks. The state may take that ability away from them.
And from what I listened to that conversation, and you know, after meeting Mayor Bemrick here last week, you know, I think he's got the right idea. You better let them hash out what they're going to do. It's kind of fruitless to try to outthink what they're going to do, because you just don't know.
You know, and Bemrick says, why don't we just keep it the way it is?
Sure.
And part of that is to stave off state interference, because there's people who are complaining that the spirit and intent of the law are being violated by city ordinances.
Sure.
So the city should lighten up just a little bit. We only allow it a couple of days here in Fort Dodge. Of course, there's people who are just fools about it.
Yeah.
Just the biggest dummies you've ever seen.
It's pretty fair game in Slifer.
Oh man, in Slifer, they cut loose there in Slifer.
It's pretty fair.
Well, that's what they want to do. They all want to send us out to the country to your house and shoot fireworks.
Well, it's pretty fair game out there. So,
so nobody's getting too excited about it.
No, not at all.
All right.
You know, you shoot them off, and you're going to get some visitors watching them. So
yeah.
But I did see Mr. Zahn. He's on his traffic camera thing.
Yes, he is. He feels about him the way I do.
And so that'll be interesting. And like I said, there's some conservation stuff moving through, and some animal stuff, and with the court rulings on the animal cruelty or the ag gag law. I guess that's how it's referred to. I haven't seen any replacements for that, or if there's going to try to maybe rewrite that to get the
court approval. There should be some way to keep those people out of the barns. I understand that there are people in those barns who shouldn't be in those barns and abuse animals, but there is not a livestock owner in the state that wants to see his livestock abused.
Well, you can't honestly say that after last week, because there was that farmer by Oskaloosa.
Well, he's an exception.
There are some bad eggs out there.
And he's going to get punished.
And he should be. Because
did he have a bank loan around those cattle or something?
I don't know.
Was he trying to screw the bank? We had a situation like that up in Humboldt 25 years
I don't know the details on it, but he did let 40 cattle starve to death, and that's wrong, and there's no excuse for that.
No matter what his reason, he was wrong, and it was ugly.
Right. So there are going to be some exceptions to everything, and he's going to be held accountable, and he should be. So
I'm really not referring to stuff like that.
Right.
That grosses us all out.
Right. And and we see on the news the puppies and it seems like some of those are just getting outrageous, the number of animals they're finding at some of the locations. But
and as far as I'm concerned, the law can land on them with both feet.
The ag gag law that we're referring to,
that's what
that's really to not let someone falsify who they are to gain access deliberately to either. I mean, they could set them up and
that's what'll happen too.
to get footage and whatnot. So it was
if your job is to go in and catch somebody in the act, you're going to set it up,
possibly. But most farmers I know, they're pretty stringent on who they hire anyway. You're going to all that's going to do is make references that much more important, and they're going to vet, use a little extra caution. It got shot down in the courts because, there was an infringement they felt on freedom of speech. I don't think that was really the intent of the law when it was written. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any language to maybe clarify that a little bit to allow that not to, do on the infringement. So, but I haven't personally seen anything on that yet. Mm-hmm. So, but like I said, there are so many bills down there that are hovering in the committees and the pools of legislation that they're sorting through. So, and since they just got through the education part of it, I think that was a big deal. Now they're going to kind of get to more normal work, I believe. So,
well, I hope so. Anything else we need to talk about, Steve?
I guess everyone just be safe tonight in the storm. And
I'm going home. I'm going home and get some hot soup and a blanket, and that's what I did over the weekend when it snowed.
Yeah, I'm going to go brave the grocery store here in a little bit. That might be chaos.
Probably. Well, it was the last time, I'll tell you. Yeah. I went to the grocery store. When was it? Thursday. And
sometimes you wonder if the meteorologists and the grocers are in cahoots on this deal. So
could be. Steve Peterson has been our guest in this portion of the program, brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
We're single parents. We don't volunteer. We just try and survive until a time in the day when it's appropriate to open wine.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the mayor of Manville. And I'm going home and get out a blanket. 3:32 news is next.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in Iowa's future. We support Iowa's youth, encourage ag innovations, and nurture new business opportunities in rural communities. We're a century strong and growing. To learn more, contact your local county farm bureau.
Elvis and Johnny are back. Alpha Media presents the Elvis and Johnny Tribute with Joseph Hall and Paul Eve.
I said don't stay is not the proper thing.
Don't miss Branson, Missouri Entertainer of the Year, Joseph Hall, officially recognized as one of the top Elvis tribute artists in the world, along with Johnny Cash impersonator Paul E. Friday night, March 29th in the Cardiff Center at Fort Frenzy.
I hear the train coming. It's rolling around the bend.
Doors open at 5:30 and the Elvis and Johnny tribute starts at 7. Tickets are $25 in advance or $30 at the door. Get them now at Hy-Vee Fort Dodge, Fort Frenzy, the Iowa Outdoor Store, or here at our studios. Bring the whole family to see this tribute to the king of rock and roll and the man in black, as Joseph Hall and Paul Eve present the Elvis and Johnny tribute. Friday night, March 29th at Fort Frenzy. Brought to you in part by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating, the Iowa Outdoor Store, and Ball Plumbing, Fort Dodge. Star Energy Manson and United Bank of Iowa, Rockwell City, Pocahontas, and Fort Dodge. The Elvis and Johnny tribute is an Alpha Media event.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. A semi-truck carrying pigs collided with a grain truck near Manson on Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. Sergeant Aaron Schmidt with the Iowa State Patrol has more.
There was a semi that was traveling northbound on Van Buren Avenue, which is a gravel road. Semi pulled up to the stop sign and stopped. And at that point, the weather conditions were dense fog in the area. Visibility was probably less than 1/8 of a mile. They stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to pull out in front of an eastbound semi that was on Highway 7. And they collided in that intersection.
Schmidt says there was one injury in the accident.
One minor injury, the semi driver of the eastbound semi, he had a laceration to his head that required medical attention, but he was conscious and alert when we talked to him.
Schmidt says the semi carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. The cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dayton Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K through 12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending plans. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's 3:37, and the weather mostly cloudy today with a high of 20, maybe. I don't think we're going to get there. Wind chill factor temperatures around 5, maybe 0. Overnight, a lot of snow overnight into tomorrow morning. Yeah, real heavy snow. Wind chill factor temperature around 5 degrees. We might get 7 inches of snow or more. Wednesday, we'll have snow off and on all day. Our high tomorrow, maybe 20 degrees. On Thursday, it'll be sunny with a high of 23. Friday, cloudy with a high of 31. Saturday, look out. Snow and a high of 35. On Sunday, a chance of snow, mostly cloudy with a high of 26. Monday, chance of snow, sunny with a high of 21. Right now, it's 18 degrees. At AM 1400, KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. Mary Catherine Conlon of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 87. She passed away Sunday at the Simpson Healthcare Center here in town. Mary Catherine Conlon, 87, has died. There will be a mass of Christian burial at 10:30 in the morning at Corpus Christi Catholic Church, and that'll be Saturday the 23rd with Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home handling the arrangements. Marianne Jensen of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 102. She passed away Saturday at Bickford Cottages at Fort Dodge Assisted Living. Services for Marianne Jensen, 102, when she passed, will be Friday the 22nd at St. Olaf Lutheran Church here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. 18 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, 339. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. March corn down a nickel at 3.69 3/4. May down 4 3/4 at 3.78. July down 4 1/2 at 3.86, and December corn down 2 1/2 at 3.96 3/4. March soybeans down 6 3/4 at $9.75 cents. May down 7 at 9.14 1/2. July down 7 cents at 9.28, and November down 6 1/4 at 9.45 3/4. March wheat closed down 14 1/2 at 4.89 3/4. Soybean meal down 1.10 a ton at 3.0540. February live cattle up 125 at 127.87. April up 127 at 128.45. March feeders up 115 at 143.75. April up 77 at 146. April lean hogs down $3 at 56.52, and May also down that $3 limit to close at 65.45. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Does fermented tea have extra health benefits? Hi, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Kombucha is a fermented tea that some claim has special health benefits, from helping with digestion and sleep and immunity. The scientific community does not support most of the health claims. Kombucha starts with green or black tea with bacteria, sugar, and yeast added. After a week or two, it's fermented. And that means it has probiotics, like other fermented foods. Probiotics are those good bacteria that promote good gut health. Kombucha tea can also be a good source of B vitamins, antioxidants, and trace minerals. The safest is pasteurized. Raw and homemade versions of kombucha have the highest risk of causing foodborne illness. The University of Wisconsin recommends, if you are making your kombucha, sanitation is critically important. All equipment needs to be sterile. They recommend using black or green tea as the base instead of herbal teas. After fermenting for 7 to 10 days at room temperature and not in the sun or outside, kombucha needs to be filtered into clean containers and refrigerated. The result is a fizzy, sweet, and sour drink. The Food and Drug Administration says kombucha is safe when properly prepared. You can buy it pre-made in the health section of grocery stores. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Here's farmer and landowner John Prue.
We purchased the land about 3 years ago, and there was an old farmstead on there with trees. We were going to clear the land so we could farm through it. We thought we knew where the pipe was, so we didn't call to get it located. The work on our property led to the damage of a light crude pipeline. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it could have been much worse.
Never assume the location or depth of underground lines. Always call 811 or visit clickbeforeyoudig.com before you start work. A message from the Pipeline Operators for Ag Safety campaign.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace, learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
With low margins and tight budgets, a soil scientist says putting your soybean input money where it matters most will help. Hello, I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. Dr. Carrie Lebowski with the University of Wisconsin-Madison says when tough choices need to be made, testing the soil and understanding what soybeans need most can help. We'll hear from her next on Managing for Profit.
Powerful, effective,
proven,
tough,
consistent,
reliable.
A lot of adjectives can describe a herbicide's weed control, but one only applies to Liberty herbicide. Superior. Liberty herbicide has no known resistance in row crops, more convenient application flexibility, and excellent control of key weeds. All backed by the Liberty Weed Control Guarantee. Learn more at liberty.basf.com. Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
We're live on the red carpet, waiting for the next generation Credenz soybean. There he is.
Oh, Ed, look, it's Credenz Liberty Link GT27.
I know, Edna. He's got elite genetics.
You gotta love his 4 bushel per acre yield advantage.
And he's both Liberty and glyphosate herbicide tolerant.
Definitely the year's hottest performer. Ask your Credenz retailer about the new Credenz Liberty Link GT27 soybeans.
Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
Dr. Kerry Lebowski is a University of Wisconsin professor of soil science and does studies on nutrient availability and the cycling and movement of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. She says during these tough economic times, farmers should stick to the basics.
We're in a time where everybody's having a hard time penciling out the cost of production, and we need to keep in mind several factors that are important for soybean production. pH and potassium are the big ones. We have data from our research stations where we've had pH plots, long-term pH plots over the years, and we can sometimes see as much as a 40% yield reduction when soil pH is below 5.5. Now, our target pH for soybean is 6.3, but there are fields out there that start getting low. So you really need to keep an eye on pH. And even if lima is going to cost $100 or $125 an acre, it'll still pay for itself within a couple of years' time. That's really important to keep that in mind. The other component is potassium. We've been running trials at Arlington looking at P and K, and we're finding that potassium is far more important than phosphorus, even when both of those soils are testing low. We have seen yield reductions of 60% in soybean when the soil test K level is low and you don't put fertilizer on compared to fertilizing. So 60% yield is a really huge loss. Now, potash prices are high and they're climbing, but again, if you need to prioritize how much money you're going to be spending, you need to focus on potassium. But if phosphorus were low and potassium were optimum, then you might want to consider putting your money on P. But if they're both testing low, potassium will be the nutrient that pays back the most.
Lebowski says maintaining good soil fertility is also the key to maintaining good soil health.
If we do not have good fertility, we don't have adequate crop production that leads to less crop residues. Even when you're in a no-till situation, you can have low residue accumulating when your fertility levels are low, and that ultimately leads to soil erosion.
Her advice for farmers going into the 2019 growing season?
Look at your soil tests. Use them to help guide what nutrients you need. They're the best tool that we've got, and they're relatively inexpensive, especially considering the cost of even just a few pounds of fertilizer.
And when you look at the potential yield losses, that might be the best money spent.
It certainly is, yes.
I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
If you're ready to start a rewarding new career, listen to this. Good Samaritan Society Manson is now hiring a part-time evening cook and dietary aide. You'll love working at this Bronze Award 5-star Christian care facility, named one of the best in the country by U.S. News and World Report. Good Samaritan Society cares for the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. Qualified applicants may apply online at good-sam.com. That's good-sam.com. Good Samaritan Society is an equal opportunity employer. Women, minorities, and veterans are encouraged to apply.
Loffersweiler Funeral Home is pleased to announce the addition of our crematory. I'm Luke Loffersweiler. The addition of our on-site crematory is another example of how we consistently exceed expectations and deliver a standard of service that is 100% guaranteed. At Loffersweilers, we're honored to give your family our assistance and expertise, taking care of even the smallest details before, during, and after the funeral, so you can begin the healing process. We're Loffersweiler Funeral Home, Fort Dodge, a trusted friend of the family for over 160 years.
I want a superhero party!
This online store doesn't have much superhero stuff. Are you sure that's what you want?
I said I want a superhero party!
Avoid the hassle. Shop Party Productions, where you'll find hundreds of birthday themes in stock. And now through March 2nd during the Customer Appreciation Sale, you'll save on everything in the store. That's 20% savings on superhero parties, graduation parties, costumes, and more. You'll even save 10% on food. Don't miss the Customer Appreciation Sale at Party Productions, 1919 First Avenue North, Fort Dodge. Some exclusions apply.
Around here, life is a continuous circle. We have friend circles, business circles, great work, and occasionally circles under our eyes. At our best, we have a circle of caring people around us. That's the power of Mercy One, a healthcare support network 20,000 strong, personalizing your care by keeping you at the center of everything we do. Mercy One, your best life, our one purpose.
From gooey grilled cheese sandwiches on Dakota-style 12-grain to peanut butter and jelly on Kids' Choice soft white bread. Kids of all ages want simple, comforting food that remind them of mom's home cooking. Country Hearth was born from that nostalgia and commitment to simplicity. Baked locally using natural ingredients like whole grains and honey, our breads are delivered fresh daily to grocery stores throughout the Midwest. Country Hearth Breads, baking our best for you.
Warning, if you're buried in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies make you think that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call the debt hotline at 800-659-8369. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you're struggling to pay off your debt, do not let the credit card companies make you think that you have to. Call the debt hotline now for free information on how to get out of debt faster than you ever thought possible without bankruptcy. We offer a guarantee with no upfront fees, so there's no risk. For free information, call the debt hotline now. 1-800-659-8369. That's 800-659-8369. 1-800-659-8369.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Smoking, baby. Got to be warm somewhere, right? We're looking at another 7 inches of snow at least. We're going to do a little bit of rock and roll here at Divine Intervention, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I want to tell you there were two remarkable letters to the editor on the February 14th edition of the Des Moines Register. These two letters stand out. Now, the first letter demanded high school students should be instructed by way of a student play that features gay relationships. One letter demanded high school students should be instructed by a student play that features gay relationships. According to the letter writer in the February 14th edition of the Des Moines Register, any implication, that this may not be appropriate, the letter writer branded outmoded or, get this, immoral. Did you get that? Christian moral belief is immoral in itself. Now, I wonder how much of the Bible or the Ten Commandments is outmoded and immoral, while court-enforced love. See, the court orders you to love, or if you cannot love, you pig, be tolerant. That's according to the Supreme Court, who have decided that it is abnormal for Christians to think negatively, apparently, of gay relationships. Do you hear that, hillbillies? Your Supreme Court has decided that you're a little warped if you don't believe that gay relationships are the greatest thing ever. And, if you remember back far enough, I warned you this would happen. Gay people before the Varnum decision here in Iowa were approaching us. All we want to do is love. We just want to be with our partner. We just want to be left alone. We want to love. And I warned you at the time, you give them the authority and they'll be kicking your door in. And they're kicking your door in with the help of our court system. Now, another letter to the editor in the Des Moines Register on February the 14th demands that we confront white privilege. Did you hear that, white people? This is another one of your many, many ills, the denial of your privilege. So this letter writer demands that we confront our white privilege by reading a book called White Fragility. You see, we're very fragile people. When we have to confront our privilege, apparently we fold like a house of cards because, we're spineless weenies. Now, after reading that, the second letter, certainly, I thought it was too damn bad my grandparents who lived just north of us, who didn't have the modern conveniences out on the farm in the Laverne Livermore area, but nonetheless faced fierce storms like we're having now. Too bad my grandparents, who feared hunger and starvation during the Great Depression, aren't here to be lectured this way. Yes, I know you fought through the Depression, but read White Fragility. That's what you need to do. The children of my grandparents, which would be the greatest generation, of course, the greatest generation were children during the Depression. And they came of age fighting a great evil to the death. I can imagine St. George with his mighty sword, and in his fist the throat of the serpent Satan. That's not a bad allegory for what the greatest generation faced with Hitler and the Japanese. They came of age fighting a great evil to the death, and they were fortified by their faith. Now they must have their struggles dismissed and reduced to a cheap bid for privilege, and the faith that fortified them dismissed as immoral. Their faith dismissed as immoral. Now, those were letters that the largest paper in our state saw fit to print. Apparently, the Des Moines Register believes these people had something to say. Now, my only question to you, and this is a serious question because I'm fed up. My only question is, when are we going to finally stand and dismiss these false and bizarre claims, these false and bizarre people hold the state's largest newspaper to account and without hesitation declare our history and ourselves the finest the world has ever produced, because that's what the United States of America and its people is. We are the finest the world has ever produced. So we don't need Robin DiAngelo, who, by the way, is a fragile-looking white woman and the author of White Fragility, to lecture us. And we don't need our state's largest newspaper to do that either. And we don't need 7 judges calling themselves a Supreme Court. What they are is a star chamber, of course. We don't need them guiding our cultural beliefs because they're offended by us. You get that? They're offended by us. They, of course, in Des Moines right now, and I watched Iowa Press over the weekend with David Yepsen and Representative Steve Holt of Denison was there, and he is one of the people who would like to see the way we select Supreme Court justices changed. Well, there was a, let's see, Mary, what was her name? I can't remember. She was a representative from Clinton, and there was a Drake law professor by the name of Vestal there who was retired. Looked like to be about, 120 years old in there or something. But anyway, Vestal informed us with a smug look on his face. Why do liberal lawyers always have smug looks on their face? I guess that's just part of their deal. But he informed Holt that the Supreme Court in the Varnum decision was absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And the Democrat there, who was trying to defend the court, essentially read. Oh, we can't have the politicization of the courts. We can't have the politicalization of the courts. Actually, all branches of government need to be accountable. Most of the states in the union elect judges. I haven't seen or heard that they are unhappy with that arrangement. So what I want to tell you what this is. Lawyers and my friend Janice Valentine and Jerry Schnur, 2 of the finest people in our town, as far as I'm concerned, completely disagree with me on this. But one of the reasons the lawyers want to keep their hands in this, and right now, lawyers are helping appoint judicial nominees, is so they can continue to sue people for big money. That's the truth. Nobody says anything about it. Nobody talks a lot about it. But that is one of the concerns of lawyers who want attorneys to keep picking the right judges. They want to pick the right judges, not because, oh, for God's sake, that they're neutral or anything like this. Really, go read that Varnum decision. Then go look in the Constitution and find where it is. It's not there. Abortion isn't there. A lot of things aren't there. Clarence Thomas, by the way, wants to revisit Sullivan versus the New York Times, and maybe Clarence Thomas has a point. More on that later. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're listening to KVFD in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
I'm Dave Ramsey. Join me every Monday through Friday afternoon from 5 to 8 p.m. on AM 1400 KVFD Fort Dodge.
The president stands his ground on Lisa Brady, Fox News, as 16 states sue over President Trump's national emergency declaration. He's digging in again on the need for a border wall.
We have to stop drugs and crime and criminals and human trafficking, and we have to stop all of those things that a strong wall will stop.
The president also predicting that he will ultimately do quite well in court. House Democratic leaders are considering their own lawsuit, arguing that only Congress has the power to appropriate funds. Meantime, the president getting questions about a new report suggesting he may have attempted to obstruct justice.
President Trump denying a report from the New York Times, saying he never asked Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker to interfere with the investigation that's being conducted by federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York.
No, not at all. I don't know who gave you that. Just more fake news.
According to the Times report, President Trump called Whitaker and asked him if he could put an ally in charge of the multiple investigations concerning his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, and potential corruption at the president's inaugural committee. At the White House, John Decker, Fox News.
Whitaker, in recent testimony to Congress, denied being asked by the president to interfere with any investigation. Bernie Sanders is diving back in.
Our campaign is about creating a government and economy that works for the many, not just the few.
The Vermont senator launching his second run for president, seeking the Democratic nomination, this time in an already crowded field that includes several other senators considered progressives. This could be a record deal in baseball. All-star infielder Manny Machado reportedly making a $300 million 10-year deal with the San Diego Padres. That would be the biggest ever for a free agent. A source tells AP Machado could opt out after 5 years and be a free agent again. This is Fox News.
Attention, everyone. I have a President's Day pro tip. You need to go to Dell.com/business deals right now because Dell's President's Day sale is live as we speak, and it's monumental. Get deals on Dell business computers with 8th Gen Intel Core processors and business tech, plus doorbusters up to 45% off. Call 877-BUY-DELL now to talk to Dell's small business technology advisors and get personalized help finding the best tech at President's Day prices. Free shipping included. Again, call 877-BUY-DELL.
This is Carl on his motorcycle. Let's ride till we run out of gas! And this is Carl off his motorcycle.
Balsa wood is very different than teak. People confuse the two.
On his motorcycle. Hey! Check out that view! Off his motorcycle.
Let's do puzzles in the break room.
On. Look at all that open road! Off.
Look how long my fingernails are getting.
You're better on your bike. Progressive helps keep you on it. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Investigators say the gunman in a mass shooting last week in Illinois lied about his criminal history to buy a gun. Fox's Jeff Manasso.
Illinois State Police say 45-year-old Gary Martin answered no to a question on his 2014 application for a firearm owner's identification card about whether he'd ever been convicted of a felony. His card was approved and he bought a gun, though a felony conviction out of Mississippi was later flagged by Martin's fingerprints.
He was then denied a concealed carry permit, but kept the gun, killing 5 people after he was fired on Friday before he was killed. A convicted killer who's been on death row in Texas for nearly 39 years will be spared. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling today that 59-year-old Bobby James Moore is intellectually disabled and cannot be put to death, ending a lengthy legal fight over his mental status and the state standards used to make that determination. Moore, who killed a grocery store clerk during a robbery in 1980, will be resentenced to life in prison. The oldest Supreme Court justice back on the bench today, hearing arguments for the first time since cancer surgery.
85-year-old Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg took her seat next to Chief Justice John Roberts for oral arguments this morning. The first time she's heard arguments in court since being treated for cancerous growths on her lungs in December. Ginsburg had been working from home while participating in consideration of cases, but returned to the court last week for the justices' closed-door conference. In arguments today, Ginsburg asked several questions of lawyers on both sides in a patent law case. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
He once called sweatpants a sign of defeat. Iconic fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld has died after a career spanning 6 decades, known not only for his work at Chanel, but at Fendi and his own label. Among the many tributes, one from former supermodel Claudia Schiffer, saying what Andy Warhol was to art, Lagerfeld was to fashion. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon, I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. A semi-truck carrying pigs collided with a grain truck near Manson on Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. Sergeant Aaron Schmidt with the Iowa State Patrol has more.
There was a semi that was traveling northbound on Van Buren Avenue, which is a gravel road. Semi pulled up to the stop sign and stopped. And at that point, the weather conditions were dense fog in the area. Visibility was probably less than 1/8 of a mile. They stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to pull out in front of an eastbound semi that was on Highway 7. And they collided in that intersection.
Schmidt says there was one injury in the accident.
One minor injury. The semi driver of the eastbound semi, he had a laceration to his head that required medical attention, but he was conscious and alert when we talked to him.
Schmidt says the semi carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. and the cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dayton Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K through 12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending plans. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. A winter storm warning begins at midnight tonight and continues until 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. 18 this afternoon, under overcast skies, east winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Snow likely tonight, 16, cloudy. Snow likely again tomorrow, highs around 28. 5 to 10 inches of snow tonight through tomorrow. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 18.
Good Samaritan Society Manson is now hiring full and part-time certified nursing assistants for various shifts. You'll enjoy working at this Bronze Award 5-star Christian care facility named one of the best in the country by U.S. News and World Report, where employees earn excellent benefits working just 30 hours a week. Qualified CNAs should apply today at good-sam.com. That's good-sam.com. Good Samaritan Society Manson is an equal opportunity employer. Women, minorities, and veterans are encouraged to apply.
What good are crop nutrients if your crops can't use them? Soil pH is the foundation of nutrient availability. 98G pelletized limestone corrects and maintains soil pH levels, maximizing your investment in crop nutrients by making them more readily available to the crop. Since 98G is pelletized for precision placement, it won't blow away in the wind like ag lime. Ask your local crop advisor about 98G pelletized limestone or learn more at calciumproducts.com.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Well, I always wondered, now I know. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, waiting on the big snow. The big snow, ladies and gentlemen, so we better do a little smoking. There we go. That sounds pretty hot. It's gonna. We might as well play something like that because it's going to be cold with a lot of snow coming up. You know, Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court Clarence Thomas thinks we should revisit the landmark Supreme Court decision, Sullivan versus New York Times, which gave people almost unlimited discretion as far as talking about political figures. For example, if you wanted to talk about a political figure and say they were morons, that's fine. The standard is actual malice. If you would try to say something completely false, now that falls outside the scope of Sullivan versus the New York Times. Other justices are apparently interested in this. So in case Sullivan versus the New York Times goes away and we can't speak with satire about public figures anymore, or even be borderline insulting, I'd just like to say a couple of our council people are blockheads. Joining me now, David Fierig, city manager. How are you, David?
What are you going to do?
I don't know, man.
You can't speak about public issues with satire.
I'll have to retire, I guess. I'll just have to retire, I guess. Yeah, David Fierig is the city manager. If you have a question or comment for David Fierig, it's 515-955-1400. That's 515-955-1400. So we got the, you might want to back away from that. You sound like Darth Vader from Star Wars. You know, you're kind of an intimidating figure anyway. So there you go. All right, perfect. We have the big snow coming. Maybe 7 inches, likely more, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the city manager. What are you telling your guys and your department heads?
Well, typically the Public Works Department, they come up with the plan of action based on.
So they ignore you and do it themselves?
No, it's not like that. They're the experts. They're the ones that look at how the snow is going to, how the storm is going to behave. When is the snow starting? What's the duration? What's the intensity? And try to find an attack for it. What we try to do with storms like this that happen overnight is to, as best as possible, make a pass down every street by 8 o'clock so that the streets are passable. This could be a tricky one because a lot of the snow is coming between midnight and 6 a.m.
The bulk of it.
Number one goal in snow operations is to keep the snow routes open.
Right.
And keep the main routes open. And that primarily is for public safety. So that
public safety, we must nuke public safety. There we go.
No, it really is so that emergency services get as much around town as possible. That really is the number one goal in big storms, is to allow emergency services to get around town. And secondarily, to keep the main routes open, and certain storms, probably not so much this one because it's going to be heavy, is to the dangerous areas like bridges and hills and curves, to keep them from becoming icy. But this is going to be like a heavy snowfall, so that's
Heavy
probably not
snowfall.
the key thing. But then we move from the snow routes then out to the residentials, and so the residentials are second priority, and third priority becomes the alleyways. So you look at this storm, what we're going to try to do is, throughout the night, keep the main routes, the snow routes open. As morning approaches, we're going to get into the residentials and hopefully at least get even a single pass through the residential streets, so that if people need to drive out, they can drive out in the morning. And then we'll spend, because we're still going to get a couple inches of snow between 6 a.m. and noon tomorrow is what's expected. So we'll be spending a good part of the day tomorrow cleaning up the roads and getting them all widened out to the curbs to get them nice and cleared. First make them passable, then get them as clear as possible. We don't expect to be able to start working on alleyways until probably tomorrow afternoon sometime. And then downtown will be a couple night process. So when everyone's sleeping, then tomorrow night, our crews will be in downtown hauling snow out, blowing snow out, trying to get it out. It'll probably take us a couple nights to do that. So yeah, it's gonna be a good bit of work.
How many guys are responsible for all that snow removal? Are we running out of places to put all the snow? I mean, sometimes we got to haul it down by dump truck down by the river there.
Yeah, sometimes we do that. The city doesn't haul it down there anymore. We put it under the 3rd Street Bridge.
You put it under the 3rd Street Bridge? Oh, you really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have places where we dump there.
Do you hire contractors with dump trucks sometimes?
We don't as much as we used to. We might, based on this storm, have to hire a couple trucks out. We used to spend back in the day, I think we spent like $7,000 per snow event.
Oh yeah,
on contracted trucks. And the great thing is our public works department, by looking at different lean ways of doing things, have gotten away from needing to contract out all that extra workforce and equipment. So that makes it pretty cool.
Well, explain that. How did you do that? Because I was one of the guys that was in a truck years ago.
Oh, we took away your income, huh?
We took away the income, yeah. We get a big snow like this, and we'd be working all night.
Yeah.
And cold, and wow, This was so long ago, by the way, Kmart was still open in Fort Dodge.
That was before me.
Yeah.
So, without getting into too much detail, one of the things we did is we addressed the storm based on the amount. So sometimes downtown, if the storms are lighter, we don't pull out the big blowers and do all that. We just basically pile it in the corners, maybe consume a parking space on each block until the next night, and then remove it with a loader and a dump truck. So now what we try to do is we have a little bit more of an organized attack, where we use our own equipment, where we have about a dozen trucks, and then the blower, and then some of the plows, and then just got a pretty synchronized attack, and it works really cool to get it out in an efficient manner and dumped and then back again to collect more. So
I love it when you start talking about like an Army general or a synchronized attack.
Synchronized
attack. And I have the bomb sound effects over here.
You do?
I do, as a matter of fact.
Right next. Next keyword.
So we just, you believe that we're doing, God, I hate to say this, but I'm such a cliche. We're doing this in a more efficient and smarter way.
Yeah, very good, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, I think, for downtown, we've really worked on trying to be as efficient with it as possible, and being, as customer oriented as possible, so that even like right after the snow and during the snow, we're not creating dangerous areas for people to want to, who have to do business downtown. So you asked another question I never did get to answer, like how many people, our typical crew on a big event like this is, let me count in my head, I think 12, maybe 13. Yeah, 13, I think, because we have maybe a little more less than that. But we break the city up into zones, and then during major events we run 2 in each zone, and we have 2 graders that run and do specific areas where graders work well with their wings. And then we have like one apparatus downtown a loader. And then the other thing we've done that's been more efficient is we've kept the big dump trucks out of like the cul-de-sacs and some of the side streets, you know, or cul-de-sacs and dead ends, because, and we've done them now with loaders because the loaders are far more maneuverable, and then the big trucks get slowed down in those areas, you know, getting around those tight corners. So we're keeping them on the major streets where they can move faster, and then take the loaders into the cul-de-sacs, and that's I think improved our overall efficiency. Now, people like me who live on a cul-de-sac now maybe a little bit later sometimes than when we get our snow removed, because, you know, we have a couple pieces of equipment that are traveling all over the city to do that, but overall the city's done sooner.
The city's done
the sooner, yeah. Most of the operations are done quicker than we thought. It's also worth reminding people that you need to clear your sidewalks within 24 hours after the snow is over, and that's a complaint-driven process. But when they're going to be walking through 12 inches of snow, people are going to complain. And
they're going to complain pretty fast.
Yeah. So for everyone who's listening, remember, you got to do your sidewalks.
Well, there'll always be people that will tell you, well, define clean.
Well, you know, I think that's, you know, we used to say it has to be 3 foot or it has to be whatever, but really it's a complaint-driven process. So if you clean it and somebody can walk on it and they're okay with it, they're not going to complain. But if, you know, if the neighbor or the person delivering something has to trudge through a bunch of snow, they'll usually contact us and say, hey, this isn't taken care of. And then we'll take care of it. And
so you're going to take care of it, are you?
It's better that we don't, because our contractor is not cheap. So it's better that people take care of it themselves.
Yeah.
Because then we hire the contractors, and then the contractor bills us. We pay the contractor. We bill the property owner who's responsible. If they don't pay it, we assess the taxes.
You assess the taxes,
yeah,
right?
So, and it gets pretty expensive.
Do we have to do that a lot?
Oh, I would say there's probably, you know, I'm gonna throw out a ballpark number of at least 100 snow assessments a year. Not an event. There might be, you know, depends on how many events and how they come in, but there could be quite a few.
Wow, it's too bad we couldn't get the people who are abusing our fireworks ordinances get that kind of rate of return, so to speak. We bust about 100 of them over a 3-day 4th of July weekend, and we'd wipe out the fireworks problem, I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Anyway, David Furick is the city manager, and he's our guest. You have a question or comment for David Furick, 515-955-1400. I talked with Roger Porter earlier today about this. Of course, we have snow routes, and you have to keep your car off them.
Yes.
Or
we will be towing.
Yes, I know somebody. Well, me. Had their car towed. 10 years ago, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was $100 to get it back then. Cash money. I had to go out and buy the old Iowa beef plant, and I can't remember what tow service is out there now, but I had to go out. And give them $100 cash, no check, no credit card, no nothing. Cash, buddy. So people will forget. 2nd Avenue North, right out here, by the way, is a snow route. So yeah, be careful. Move your car.
Yeah, and a couple things to advise people of: if you put your car just off the curb, even though during the summer, if you cross the sidewalk, that you can get a parking ticket for that. If it's during a snow event, if you cross the sidewalk, we're not going to write you a ticket. If you're parked up over the curb, even if you're on what would have been grass, we're not going to give you a ticket. We want as many cars as possible off the streets. That helps. It really helps us get it cleared and get it moved out. In addition, cars are not supposed to sit on the street without moving more than 24 hours. So
there's a lot to do, though.
Well, it's very easy to see after a snow event. So remind folks that when the truck has gone around your car that's out in the street, you're going to need to move it, because then we'll start identifying cars that need to get moved because they haven't over 24 hours, and we'll move them and we'll clear the snow. So that won't be pleasant either.
Do you move the car? By cars, you're seizing them.
Towing them.
The state is seizing private property.
No, we're just moving it.
Okay.
We're not seizing it, no, because we don't ever take possession of it. The tow company temporarily holds it in a safe place until you can go and pay your tow fee.
Oh, is that what it is, David?
Yeah, I don't think we might ticket.
You are so tricky. That's very glib. I like that.
Well, you're using the word seize. Seize means actually we take possession.
Yeah, I like that. All that military language. Yeah. Yes, armed uniformed people will show up and seize your property. Oh, that's pretty dramatic. kind of like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, 515-955-1400. We have a question or comment for David Furick, city attorney.
City attorney.
A city attorney. I promoted you.
Yeah.
You're now Mark Crimmins. You have hair and everything. Your brother's the dude. I mean, your life is improved. No, I keep confusing Andy Fritz and Mark Crimmins for some reason. I don't know why that is. I keep getting them screwed up. Anyway, so if there is a car on the parked, do you move cars? To use your terminology, do you move cars just on the snow routes or all over town?
Well, they can be moved all over town. A car is not supposed to be parked on a street in the same place longer than 24 hours.
Okay.
So that can be all over town.
So if I go home and park in the street tonight and leave my car there for 8 hours, that's
no problem. Except you'll be digging it out tomorrow.
Yeah, I will be digging it out tomorrow. I have a neighbor across the street who's got some little car. I don't know what it is, but it's a very small car. He was buried up to his window the other day. he really should have found something else to do, I guess.
Yeah.
When's the next city council meeting?
It is
next Monday?
Monday. What is that, the 25th?
25th is right.
Yeah.
Is there anything we're going to talk about? Or?
Well, we're going to have the zoning ordinance on fireworks tents on that agenda. So that should be an interesting discussion. So the plan is now the ordinance that's going to be proposed still allows them in commercial areas, but sets up a 200-foot setback. This is for tents, not for inside sales. For tents, a 200-foot setback from residential properties with residential structures on them. Yeah, from resident or any structure on a residential.
Does this mean I'm going to lose my fireworks tent that was in the Fairway parking lot?
I don't know for sure. I haven't measured that out, and maybe
I think there was only one that was really driving everybody crazy, and that was the one over by the community tab, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was.
By the way, they have great pizza.
They do.
Oh,
they have great pizza. And unique flavors.
Yes, they do. As a matter of fact, during the last big storm, when was that? Saturday? No, Friday. No, Friday. Friday, I ordered a pizza, and so it took the guy quite a while to get there, and he had to park it practically in the middle of the street. But he got there. Pizza was, house? Yeah, he got there. So.
Isn't that kind of cruel ordering a pizza during a snowstorm?
Well, I was really being unusually lazy. I know.
Did you give him a generous tip?
I did.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I did. At least I gave him a tip. In fact, I handed him 2 bills that were over the price, and he didn't even question it. He just said thank you and turned around and left. Yes, I'm taking this for a tip. You made me come out in this terrible weather. I'm taking this money. I don't blame him a bit. But yeah, well. Anyway, so what is the if your car is towed during a major snow event, how much is it to get it back?
I don't even know.
Really?
I don't.
I said it was $100 10 years ago because I got it towed twice in 1 year.
Now, was it $100 for both of them or individually?
Individual. Oh, it was $200 for me to park in front of the plane.
See, that seems high because if I'd have shot a number, I would have said somewhere around, because it used to be years ago. A lot of it was just a pass through. Well, the snow routes, we don't ticket. Well, no, I could be wrong. I think I'm going to mess it up.
I was on a snow route.
We should ask Roger this question.
Yeah, I should have.
Because I would be guessing it would be more around 50. But
oh, no. If it was 50, heck, I'd take the fine.
But you still got to go get your car.
Yeah, that's true. I did. That's true. I did. And that sucked, of course. But anyway. So, fireworks ordinance next Monday at the workshop.
It'd be the first reading.
First reading of what?
Of the fireworks ordinance. It's not a workshop.
Okay. Oh, so this is the first reading.
Yeah.
And what does the new ordinance say?
Well, as I mentioned before, so the ordinance would create a restriction on outdoor sales of fireworks.
Okay, is that it?
That they have to be
200 feet from a residential
structure.
I heard you say that. I mean, is that it?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, that's probably the most significant part of it.
Bemrick's a lot of times the smartest one at that table. I wish they'd just listen to him. He just leave things alone, and we'll see what happens. But they don't seem to understand that.
Well,
Matt's intellectual and moral superiority. Yeah. All right, David, thanks for coming.
You're welcome, Mike.
David Furick, city manager, is our guest.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
We're single parents. We don't volunteer. We just try and survive until a time in the day when it's appropriate to open wine.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, 429, the big snow is coming. Get ready. Don't leave your cars out in the street. News is next. AM 1400 KVFD.
Ready to create your own income with your own home-based business where there's no such thing as getting laid off? If a billionaire entrepreneur spent 5 years and $20 million searching for the next big trend, wouldn't you want to know what he found? If you're serious about making money from home without having to leave home, then write this down. www.goherenext.com. You decide your income. Goherenext.com. Have you ever thought about saying goodbye to your job? Just walking into your boss and saying, I quit. And how would you like to commute to work without ever leaving your home? If a billionaire entrepreneur spent 5 years and $20 million searching for the next big trend, wouldn't you want to know what he found? If you're serious about making money from home without having to leave home, then write this down. www.goherenext.com. You decide your income. Get the facts now. Goherenext.com.
Party with a Purpose, Saturday, March 2nd during the 22nd Annual Sweetheart Gala. Imagine a world without heart disease or stroke. That's the driving mission of the American Heart Association. I'm Abigail Johnson, inviting you to join us at the Best Western Starlight Village. Social hour begins at 6. There'll be a silent and live auction, a DJ, and delicious dessert buffet and meal. Tickets are just $50 each. Come dance the night away at the 22nd Annual Sweetheart Gala, Saturday night, March 2nd at the Best Western Starlight Village in Fort Dodge.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm a mom of 2, and I live with HIV. When I first received my diagnosis, I was really worried about how I was going to provide for my kids because I knew taking control of my diagnosis was going to be expensive. So I started looking for any resources that could help us out, and I found out I was eligible for Ryan White services through the Iowa Department of Public Health. I qualified for medication and medical care, financial help, transportation, housing, and even counseling. I'm amazed by how much support is available, and I wish I had talked to someone sooner. Especially now that I know I'm not alone. Over 3,000 Iowans are living with HIV. How we take care of ourselves and how we manage our care are 2 of the most important ways we can live our best lives. I'm living with HIV, not dying from it. Why wait? Reach out for testing and care services at stophiviowa.org.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. A semi-truck carrying pigs collided with a grain truck near Manson on Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. Sergeant Aaron Schmidt with the Iowa State Patrol has more.
There was a semi that was traveling northbound on Van Buren Avenue, which is a gravel road. Semi pulled up to the stop sign and stopped. And at that point, the weather conditions were dense fog in the area. Visibility was probably less than 1/8 of a mile. They stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to pull out in front of an eastbound semi that was on Highway 7. And they collided in that intersection.
Schmidt says there was one injury in the accident.
One minor injury. The semi driver of the eastbound semi, he had a laceration to his head that required medical attention, but he was conscious and alert when we talked to him.
Schmidt says the semi carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. and the cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dane Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K-12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending plans. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. A winter storm warning begins at midnight tonight and continues until 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. 18 this afternoon, under overcast skies, east winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Snow likely tonight, 16, cloudy. Snow likely again tomorrow, highs around 28. 5 to 10 inches of snow tonight through tomorrow. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 17.
From the Fox Business Network, on Wall Street, the major averages closing slightly higher after President Trump said U.S.-China trade talks are going well. Investors getting a much-needed dose of optimism today from the retail sector. This after Walmart reported stronger than expected sales and profit for the holiday quarter, fueled by strong grocery sales, online orders, and holiday purchases. And home builders also rising after an industry survey showed higher confidence within the sector heading into the spring. With the Dow closing up 8 points, the Nasdaq up for its seventh straight session of gains, up 14, S&P 500 up 4. And Oprah's wallet has gotten a bit more thinner over the past 8 months to the tune of $555 million as a result of being the second largest shareholder of Weight Watchers, now known as WW. The wellness and weight management stock has now shed over 71% since hitting a record close last June. And today, JP Morgan Chase adding to Oprah's woes, with analysts turning bearish on WW. With the Fox Business Report.
How can a fully stocked restroom improve your image? How can serviced fire extinguishers or a first aid cabinet make your employees more prepared? How can comfortable work apparel make your business more productive? For over 1 million customers, the answer is simple. Cintas. Cintas delivers everything you need to open your doors with confidence. Because helping keep businesses well-equipped, clean, and looking their best, that's our business. Oh, I'm ready! Get Cintas and get ready for the workday.
With low margins and tight budgets, a soil scientist says putting your soybean input money where it matters most will help. Hello, I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. Dr. Carrie Lebowski with the University of Wisconsin-Madison says when tough choices need to be made, testing the soil and understanding what soybeans need most can help. We'll hear from her next on Managing for Profit.
Powerful, effective,
proven,
tough,
consistent,
reliable.
A
lot of adjectives can describe a herbicide's weed control, but one only applies to Liberty herbicide. Superior. Liberty herbicide has no known resistance in row crops, more convenient application flexibility, and excellent control of key weeds. All backed by the Liberty Weed Control Guarantee. Learn more at liberty.basf.com. Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
We're live on the red carpet, waiting for the next generation Credenz soybean. There he is.
Oh, Ed, look, it's Credenz Liberty Link GT27.
I know, Edna. He's got elite genetics.
You gotta love his 4 bushel per acre yield advantage.
And he's both Liberty and glyphosate herbicide tolerant.
Definitely the year's hottest performer. Ask your Credenz retailer about the new Credenz Liberty Link GT27 soybeans.
Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
Dr. Carrie Lebowski is a University of Wisconsin professor of soil science and does studies on nutrient availability and the cycling and movement of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. She says during these tough economic times, farmers should stick to the basics.
We're in a time where everybody's having a hard time penciling out the cost of production, and we need to keep in mind several factors that are important for soybean production. pH and potassium are the big ones. We have data from our research stations where we've had pH plots, long-term pH plots over the years, and we can sometimes see as much as a 40% yield reduction when soil pH is below 5.5. Now, our target pH for soybean is 6.3, but there are fields out there that start getting low. So you really need to keep an eye on pH. And even if lima is going to cost $100 or $125 an acre, it'll still pay for itself within a couple of years' time. That's really important to keep that in mind. The other component is potassium. We've been running trials at Arlington looking at P and K, and we're finding that potassium is far more important than phosphorus, even when both of those soils are testing low. We have seen yield reductions of 60% in soybean when the soil test K level is low and you don't put fertilizer on compared to fertilizing. So 60% yield is a really huge loss. Now, potash prices are high and they're climbing, but again, if you need to prioritize how much money you're going to be spending, you need to focus on potassium. But if phosphorus were low and potassium were optimum, then you might want to consider putting your money on P. But if they're both testing low, potassium will be the nutrient that pays back the most.
Lebowski says maintaining good soil fertility is also the key to maintaining good soil health.
If we do not have good fertility, we don't have adequate crop production that leads to less crop residues. Even when you're in a no-till situation, you can have low residue accumulating when your fertility levels are low, and that ultimately leads to soil erosion.
Her advice for farmers going into the 2019 growing season?
Look at your soil tests. Use them to help guide what nutrients you need. They're the best tool that we've got, and they're relatively inexpensive, especially considering the cost of even just a few pounds of fertilizer.
And when you look at the potential yield losses, that might be the best money spent.
It certainly is, yes.
I'm Larry Lee with Managing for Profit on Brownfield.
The President's Day flooring sale at Jim's Carpet One Floor & Home is the best time to give your home a refreshing new look. Hi, this is Dean Sternberg with Jim's Carpet One. Choose from natural hardwood floors, classic or contemporary tiles, soft, pet-friendly carpets, waterproof luxury vinyl tiles, and more. Find monumental savings store-wide with special financing available. The President's Day flooring sale for a limited time only at Jim's Carpet One, across from Decker Truck Line.
Financing on approved credit. See store for details.
Have you ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services.
800-316-4761. That's 800-316-4761. 800-316-4761.
It's time to join the millions of people using Zoom video conferencing. Turn any size conference room, huddle room, or executive office into a Zoom room with flawless HD video, crystal clear audio, and instant wireless sharing. It'll even work with your existing hardware. Start your meetings with a single touch or use Zoom's new voice command feature. Hey Zoom, start meeting. Huddle happy. Visit zoom.us to set up your free Zoom room trial today.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
We're single parents. We don't volunteer. We just try and survive until a time in the day when it's appropriate to open wine.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
That AM 1400 KVFD.
Okay, big snow is coming. Remember, don't leave your cars parked on snow roads. They will get towed. I speak from painful experience here. Yeah, my number here, 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. I certainly, again, want to congratulate and give my best wishes to the Fort Dodge senior high wrestlers. They did an outstanding job. They placed third this year as a team and had a couple of state champions, Ayala and Taylor. Terrific job, absolutely terrific job. I suppose I could talk to you a little bit about the faithless Kim Reynolds. I say faithless because There are those down in Des Moines right now who are trying to allow a constitutional carry. In other words, you don't need a permit. You don't need a concealed weapons permit or any training or anything. If you're of age and you have a clean record, you can carry a weapon, period, end of story. And frankly, I'm in favor of that, of course. Kim Reynolds, she disappoints us in a lot of ways. She just, why she's going this way, I don't know. But she has publicly stated that no, she's never opposed anything. What she says is, I'm in favor of the law that she originally supported. In other words, she does not support constitutional carry. I mean, I don't know why she just doesn't say it. She's got to get too cute by half. But that's where we are. I asked her live on this radio program about E-Verify for illegals, or immigrants, I should say. That is the best tool we have so far. It doesn't cost very much. We use E-Verify here at the radio station. Now, Governor Reynolds can do that by executive order. She does not and will not. And do you want to know why? Because she's in favor of slave labor. I should say her big ag supporters, especially in Northwest Iowa, who Steve King believes are funding Randy Feenstra, they want slave labor. They want to flood the labor market, as Craig Lang did. They want to flood the labor market with illegals, put them in trailers like slaves used to live years ago, the slave quarters. These are 21st century slave quarters. And they'll own those people. Oh, they'll give them a little bit of a wage, like $10, $11 an hour, to do the filthiest, most difficult work there is. And of course, they'll tell us, well, this is work that those lazy white people don't want to do. Well, that is so offensive. That is so patently offensive. I can't even begin to go there. That is that's no respect for labor at all. That you think that you deserve labor of that level of difficulty for $10 an hour and then try to hang it on lazy white people, you're a pig. And that's the truth. And I don't care. Dianne Feinstein out in California is a pig when it comes to these things. Only someone truly hateful would say something like that. Truly hateful or deluded. Oh, those damn white people, they don't want to do it. So all these wonderful Mexican people. Yes, they're starving to death. And by the way, they're held in slave-like conditions. So don't tell me how wonderful this is. And don't tell me there's anything to that ugly concept that white people are too lazy to do this great work for us. They just want cheap labor, period. It's all about cheap labor, period. That's all. That's all. I don't even know what to, I'm only going to talk about this. What is his name? Jesse somebody other. Jussie, Jussie Smollett, who reported that on January 29th, 2 o'clock in the morning, extremely cold in the Streeterville, I think it was, section of Chicago. He went to a Subway to get a sandwich or some kind of food, and 2 men jumped him, poured a chemical on him, put a rope around his neck, yelled racist insults, and said, "This is MAGA country." Of course, that's that's the nightmare of liberals everywhere. Well, actually, the Jussie Smollett, the Jussie, is that his name? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. But according to Heather McDonald, the Jussie case in which a young black gay actor has apparently concocted a tale of being attacked by 2 white men wearing MAGA hats and shouting anti-gay slurs is just the latest example of how desperately media elites want to confirm their favorite narrative about the United States of America, that the country is endemically and lethally racist, sexist, and homophobic, and that the election of Donald Trump proves both and reinforces such bigotry. These people despise us. They despise our country. They despise people who are not them. Now, the truth is, again, according to Heather McDonald, the truth is, as instances of actual racism get harder and harder to find, the search to find such bigotry becomes increasingly frenzied and unmoored from reality. Liberals are losing touch with reality. Yes, there is such a thing as Trump derangement syndrome. I'm convinced if Trump's reelected, there'll be a lot of people, educated, decent human beings, not 3 years ago, who may need commitment to a mental health facility. We really have a mental health crisis on our hands. We may have to start building mental health facilities like we built prisons a number of years ago, because we're going to have liberals going absolutely insane. Now, here, let me read just a few. Let me read just a few false reports over the many years about racism and bigotry in the United States that, of course, the media jumped right on. St. Olaf College in 2017. St. Olaf. You recognize St. Olaf? Yes. This is in Minnesota. St. Olaf College was roiled by mass protests in response to anti-black notes found around campus. Classes were canceled and the administration caved to demands. An investigation found that Samantha Wells, supposedly a victim of one of the notes, fabricated the entire incident. And that happened at Drake University earlier this year. In November 2018, students at Goucher College demanded social justice training and safe spaces. Yes, safe spaces after racist, Nazi, and Ku Klux Klan graffiti was found on campus. Someone even wrote the names of black students. Donald Trump was condemned. It turns out Finn Arthur, a black student, was responsible for the entire thing. How many do you want to know about? In November 2017, near K-State University, a black man's car was vandalized with racist messages. Class was canceled and students held demonstrations, of course. Dontarius Williams later admitted to police that he did it himself. And here's the kicker in each one of these. Police did not charge him. Oh, well, you're trying to discredit Donald Trump in the ugliest possible way. You were trying to make ordinary people who don't look like you look like hateful bigots and violent racists. No big deal. It's probably because of the terrible history your ethnic group has in this country. Never mind you're a college student. God almighty. In autumn of 2018, again at K-State, a note was left on an apartment that read, "Beware N-word, they live here. Knock at your own risk." The victim admitted to police that he did it himself. This was the second time he had fabricated a hate crime in 2 years. At the University of Michigan, Haley Bass told police a Trump supporter attacked her by scratching her face in November 2016. She said she was targeted for wearing a pin in support of UK Remain. As her story fell apart, she admitted to scratching herself. Again, I got a million of them. Who remembers when Donald Trump was blamed for the spat of death threats to Jewish community centers across the United States? Juan Thompson was a reporter who worked for The Intercept, a very liberal online paper. He was convicted for the hoax threats and other offenses. Wonder how Glenn Greenwald feels about that. Back in 2016, a Muslim student, again at the University of Michigan, claimed she was attacked by a white man who threatened to burn her hijab. It never happened. CARE said the attack is just the latest anti-Muslim incident reported since the election of Donald Trump as president. Did you hear what I'm saying? CARE, a leading Muslim advocacy group in the United States, even though this did not happen and was proven so, still released a statement saying this is just the latest anti-Muslim incident reported since the election of Donald Trump. When are we going to stand up and call these people liars and declare ourselves and our culture and our history the greatest country and culture that the world has ever produced? You know why these things happen? Because we don't defend ourselves. Because we allow people like Cory Booker to tell others to get in our faces. To have authors like Robin DiAngelo down at Iowa State University talking about white fragility and white people failing to acknowledge their wonderful privilege. Again, I really wish my grandparents were here, who lived out on the prairie during the Depression, were scared to death about going hungry, were scared to death that their children, my dad and mom, wouldn't get enough to eat, who didn't even have an indoor toilet in this kind of weather. I wish they were here to be lectured to by a bunch of flakes like this. I'll tell you what they would have done. They would have laughed in their face. So, my father's generation, the greatest generation, fights to the death against Nazi Germany. My dad wasn't in Europe. He was on Peleliu Island in Iwo Jima. Terrible. Oh, the struggle in the South Pacific didn't get as much attention as the war in Europe. And that's a great tragedy, because what the Marines did in the South Pacific during their island hopping campaign, it was brutal. Some of the regiments lost half their people or more. They literally had to root the Japanese out of the island itself because they had bored themselves in there with foodstuffs, and they were ready to stay there and kill Americans as long as they could. I wonder if our smug liberals of today would care to lecture that generation on their privilege. I wonder if they would question that generation, that any comfort that they had built in their lives was somehow phony and ill-gotten because of their privilege. We allow them to do this. We allow, and this comes from the Democratic Party, we allow them to stand up and disrupt eggs and issues over these silly causes. If anyone needs to be confronted, it's them. If anyone needs to be confronted. Charlotte, North Carolina, in April 2017, a man named Curtis Florney set an immigrant business on fire and left a note that said, "Trump is our nation builder for white America." When CCTV showed that the perpetrator was black, some sites said it was a white Trump supporter in disguise. This is the truth. When a CCTV showed up and said that the perpetrator was black, some online site said that it was a white Trump supporter in disguise. By the way, I'm going to post this on my Facebook page. You can go through them. Andy Nago is the man who looked all these up. In November 2016 in Chicago, Taylor Volk, a bisexual student, of course, at NPU, wherever that is, said she received pro-Trump, anti-gay messages. Of course, it has to be pro-Trump. Taylor Volk was quoted as saying, "This is a countrywide epidemic all of a sudden," she said. The investigation found that she had fabricated the entire story. I wonder if she's even bisexual. Okay, I can't let go. 2016, a message that read, "Bye-bye Latinos, hasta la vista." At Elon University, students raged, saying the campus was unsafe and racist and, yes, wanted safe spaces. The administration, of course, panicked, cowards that they are. An investigation found, you guessed it, a Latino student wrote it as a commentary on the election. Oh, God. I just don't, I got into this and and there are many, many, many incidences around the country since Donald Trump announced that he was running for president that I really can't go through them all. I mean, it's just wild. And it's all nonsense, and it's all dangerous, frankly. And it's all a lie. And it goes on because we allow it to. We've grown too timid. We're afraid of being called a racist. That's all you need to do, isn't it? Make an accusation. An accusation is good enough. Remember what happened at the University of Missouri a few years ago? President of the university lost his job. Somebody somewhere had written racial insults at the University of Missouri. This is the same case where that female professor came out and wanted some muscle to get rid of a photographer. You remember that. 5 o'clock. Thanks for listening.
It's Everything Digital on the Kim Komando Show every Saturday from 11 to 2 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD, Fort Dodge. Denials from the White House. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump disputing a New York Times report that he tried to meddle in the investigation of his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen. He was asked about it this afternoon.
The president sounded almost surprised being asked about that question, but according to Maggie Haberman, who is one of the names that was on the byline of the piece, she tweeted, as often happens, White House was fully briefed on the story's reportage and did not choose to say anything ahead of the publication. Then the president comments afterwards. So the president was fully aware of everything that the New York Times was going to report. In a statement, the Department of Justice also shooting down the allegation that the president asked Whitaker to do him a solid.
Fox's John Roberts at the White House. The Times reports the president called Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, asking him if he could put an ally in charge of the Cohen investigations and the investigation of the president's inaugural committee. And the president criticizing California's lead role in a multi-state lawsuit challenging his emergency declaration to pay for the border wall, saying he has the right to declare an emergency. Foreign fighters who go to Syria to fight for ISIS should face charges if they return to their home countries. That from State Department spokesman Robert Palladino.
Repatriating these foreign terrorist fighters to their countries of origin, ensuring that they're prosecuted and detained. That's the best solution to preventing them from returning to the battlefield.
Palladino did not comment on the specific case of an American woman who went to Syria to marry an ISIS fighter and now wants to return home, saying that she made a mistake. She's now in a refugee camp in Syria. On Wall Street, stocks ended the day modestly higher. The Dow up 8 points. The Nasdaq rose 14. The S&P gained 4 points. This is Fox News.
Attention, everyone. I have a President's Day pro tip. You need to go to Dell.com/business deals right now because Dell's President's Day sale is live as we speak, and it's monumental. Get deals on Dell business computers with 8th Gen Intel Core processors and business tech, plus doorbusters up to 45% off. Call 877-BUY-DELL now to talk to Dell's small business technology advisors and get personalized help finding the best tech at President's Day prices. Free shipping included. Again, call 877-BUY-DELL.
This is Stacy on her motorcycle.
What an incredible view!
And this is Stacy off her motorcycle.
Does this have sucralose in it?
On her motorcycle.
Oh, the wind in my hair!
Off her motorcycle.
It's pronounced et cetera, not etc.
On.
Woohoo! Yes!
Off.
No.
you're better on your bike. And with basic policy starting at $75 a year, quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. A semi-truck carrying pigs collided with a grain truck near Manson on Tuesday morning around 8 a.m. Sergeant Aaron Schmidt with the Iowa State Patrol has more.
There was a semi that was traveling northbound on Van Buren Avenue, which is a gravel road. Semi pulled up to the stop sign and stopped. And at that point, the weather conditions were dense fog in the area. Visibility was probably less than an eighth of a mile. They stopped at the stop sign and then proceeded to pull out in front of an eastbound semi that was on Highway 7. And they collided in that intersection.
Schmidt says there was one injury in the accident.
One minor injury. The semi driver of the eastbound semi, he had a laceration to his head that required medical attention, but he was conscious and alert when we talked to him.
Schmidt says the semi carrying hogs lost about 12 livestock in the crash. Schmidt says the Highway 7 was reopened around 1 p.m. and the cleanup took several hours. Iowa Department of Natural Resources conservation officers responded to a snowmobile crash on Friday at 1:45 p.m. Officers believe 50-year-old Timothy Gerdes of Story City was traveling 60 to 65 miles per hour when he hit an ice heave more than 3 foot tall that was hidden by recent snowfall and causing Gerdes' snowmobile to go airborne and him to be ejected. Gerdes was transported to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center in Fort Dodge and then to a Des Moines hospital for a spinal injury, and there is no update on his current condition. Gerdes was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. The Webster County Sheriff's Office, Webster County Emergency Management, Dane Fire Department, Lehigh Fire and Rescue, Stratford Fire and Rescue, and Fort Dodge Fire and Rescue assisted the Iowa DNR with the crash. Governor Kim Reynolds has approved legislation providing a nearly $90 million state funding boost to public K through 12 schools in Iowa.
This new education funding helps us continue moving forward to get our young people ready for the challenges of the 21st century economy. And that's why education is and will continue to be a top priority.
One bill increases the state's per pupil spending on public schools by just over 2%. In the other bill, per pupil spending in 170 districts is boosted by $5 per student to correct an inequity in the state school funding formula. There's nearly $8 million in that bill as well to increase state spending on school transportation budgets to help rural districts struggling to pay for busing students to and from school.
I want to commend lawmakers for their quick action on school funding this session. Having these bills to me in February will definitely help Iowa school districts better prepare for the next school year.
School boards are required by law to certify the budgets for the next academic year by mid-April. A state law requires the legislature to make the basic decisions on school funding by mid-February, but there's no penalty for missing the deadline. Lawmakers have often been tardy in taking final votes on school spending.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios. It's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. This is your show, America. We're glad you're here. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Brandy starts off this hour in Boise, Idaho. Hi, Brandy. How are you?
A little stressed, but I think that I'm going to be better after this. How are you doing?
Better than I deserve. How can I help?
Well, my husband and I have gone through a pretty rough few years. We've had some illness. We both lost our jobs. And on top of that, unfortunately, went through a very rough custody issue with my ex-husband. We've also made some pretty bad credit decisions, and we've recently decided we really want to get on top of things. We've got 3 kids, and we want to be able to get everything paid off and have college funded for them and just really get our lives back on track. And we're just kind of lost, and we'd actually considered filing bankruptcy. And I started trying to Google budgeting for beginners and like that, and your name popped up several times. And I actually have a coworker that had mentioned she uses your envelope system. And so I found the phone number and thought, who better to ask for some advice on kind of how to get started with everything.
Cool. Well, I'm sorry you guys have been through this. I think the epiphany you've had is really healthy. The transition that you had. You kind of went from, I'm going to be managed and my money is going to be managed by the tyranny of the urgent. I'm not going to be putting out little fires anymore, to I'm going to have to step back and have a plan, or this stuff's going to crush me. And
Absolutely.
That's a really
feel like
good,
it already has.
yeah, that's a really good place to find yourself. Now, then the only question is how to best turn it around. What do we do now to turn it around? And how do we do that? So let's talk through your details. How much debt do you all have, not counting your home?
We actually don't have a home. We rent.
Okay.
And even with that, we've got about $131,000.
Okay. On what?
between the two of us.
Break that down for me.
So we've got about $58,000 in student loans, 44 in cars. We've got about 4,000 in credit cards, 3,000 in medical. Got about $1,000 in loans from family.
Okay.
And then 20,000 in attorney's fees alone from the custody battle.
How old are the attorney's fees?
About 2 years
Are
now.
you paying on them monthly?
We have not been. No, we finally just recently, after almost a year of both of us being unemployed and almost homeless.
But you're in touch with the attorney, and they're not coming after you because they generally want their money and they know how to get at their attorneys.
Right.
So, okay, what is your household income now? What's your household income now?
We should be making about between 35 and 40,000 a year now that we're both working. Mine is very irregular. I'm a waitress, so it's
so you're
very
making
up
like
and down.
you're making like 40 total or 40 a piece?
Total.
Okay, you make $40,000 a year. So you're making you make how much roughly a year?
Me by myself, I make about 10,
and he makes about 30.
My husband should make about 30.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you have how many children at home?
3.
Okay. And so you're mom and part-time waitress. And what does he do?
He is a service advisor at a car dealership.
Okay. All right, cool. And how long has he been doing that?
Well, he's done it for several years.
How long has he been doing that
but
this time?
Recently, this time he's been there about 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. So we're just glad to have this job at this point. Okay. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me walk you through what bankruptcy would do. A Chapter 7 bankruptcy, if you can qualify, is the one that drops an atom bomb on the debt, drops a hydrogen bomb on the debt, just destroys everything, and of course destroys your credit, and you walk away. Okay. That's what most people think of when they think of bankruptcy. A Chapter 13 is a payment plan in bankruptcy. In either case, student loans are not bankruptable.
Right.
So almost half of your debt is not going to be addressed by a bankruptcy. Okay.
Okay.
In either case, you're going to continue to pay the car payments and pay the full amount owed on the cars if you keep the cars. In either case, the only way to get rid of the cars, the only way to get rid of the car payments in bankruptcy or out of bankruptcy is get rid of the cars. The payments stay if the cars stay, whether you're bankrupt or not. You follow me?
So that's actually the problem, David.
So bankruptcy does not help you.
Right. And we don't actually have the cars anymore. They, unfortunately, because we were
they were
unemployed for so
repoed.
long, they were both repoed.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that solves that problem.
So now we
Okay,
don't
you don't
have
know.
those,
You don't
but
know.
we've got to save
You're
to buy a
confused.
car.
You're confused. Then you don't know $44,000. You did not have a $44,000 deficit. When they take the car and sell it, they come after you for the difference in what you owed and what they sold it for, not for the total.
I see.
Yeah, the total owed originally was 44. Now they took the car and sold it, and that comes off the balance, and then you can settle that for about a quarter on the dollar with cash. Okay, so what do you think those cars were worth roughly?
Let's see. My husband's car was probably worth about $10,000. My SUV was probably worth around 25 to 27.
Okay. So instead of $35,000 of value on those cars, you might have got, say, 25 at repo auction or 20 somewhere in there. So your balance is only going to be more like 20, not 44.
They didn't tell me that.
They don't tell you. They don't tell you anything. They're just coming after you and barking at you. And then the second thing that's going to happen is you can settle that 20 for about a quarter on the dollar, so about $5,000.
Okay.
So about $5,000 makes the car issue go away in cash. The student loans can be put on hardship deferral today and need to be if they haven't been already. And then we've got to work through these little ankle biters other than the attorney's fees, which are there. You're not bankrupt. You're just in a mess. Because bankruptcy wouldn't help you much. You follow me?
Okay.
It would clear
I am now. I was terrified.
I know. When you're scared, you just grab at everything. And I've been scared. I know how it feels. So what we got to do now is we got to get you on a written budget, and we got to do everything we can to get your household income up.
Okay.
The faster we get it up, because it's still low, even though we're thankful for these new jobs, it's still very low. The faster we can get it up, the more we can dump on these debts and start cleaning them off. You know, I need to get you up to 50 to 60,000, but that may be 3 jobs each. I don't know. Y'all gonna be working a lot, selling everything in sight that you hadn't already sold. And I'm gonna put you through our class. It's a year-long access to an online, plus you can go to the class in your area for 9 weeks. It's called Financial Peace University, and I'm going to pay for it, and it'll keep you from having to file bankruptcy, and it'll help you turn this around. Hold on, I'm going to walk with you. Listen up, business leaders. I talk to folks every day about making smart decisions with their money and their business. You know what's smart for your business. Hiring the right team can take it to the next level. That's why we recommend you go to ZipRecruiter.com/Dave. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter finds qualified candidates for you. Its powerful matching technology scans thousands of resumes to identify people with the right skills, education, and experience, and actively invites them to apply to your job so you get qualified candidates fast. That's why ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the U.S. This rating comes from hiring sites on Trustpilot with over 1,000 reviews. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Dave. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Dave.
Are you ready for a marriage with no money fights? This is #1 New York Times bestselling author Rachel Cruz, and I'm so excited to announce that my event, Money and Marriage, is hitting the road again this spring. Marriage expert Dr. Les Parrott and I will teach you practical tools to help couples communicate more effectively and gain a better understanding of what they can accomplish financially together. It's a date night worth investing in. Visit DaveRamsey.com to see where we're headed and purchase your seats today. That's DaveRamsey.com. We can't wait to see you there.
No one should feel unsafe at home, period. That's been SimpliSafe's mission from day one. You may have even seen a SimpliSafe commercial that talks about it during the big game this year. SimpliSafe blankets your whole home in safety. The Verge calls SimpliSafe the best home security, and it's a wire cutter top pick. Protect your home today and get 10% off at SimpliSafeDirect.com. That's SimpliSafeDirect.com.
Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson. A bill that would have allowed parents a philosophical objection to getting their school kids vaccinated failed in the Iowa Senate today. Dozens of parents were there in support, including Megan Wisner, a member of Iowans for Informed Consent.
Vaccines as healthcare treatment should never be a one-size-fits-all, because vaccines aren't safe for everyone.
Dr. Kate Linkenmeyer of Des Moines responded to that criticism.
As an Iowan wanting to help Iowans, this bill could have devastating repercussions.
A second bill that would have banned hospitals and other healthcare providers from firing staff or rejecting patients who haven't been immunized against infectious diseases also failed today to get out of a Senate subcommittee. A massive approaching winter storm is ready to dump more snow on us.
People can think of it as a near carbon copy of what we saw last weekend.
That's National Weather Service meteorologist Alan Curtis, who says we could get 6 to 8 inches and maybe more. In some places could see up to 10 inches of new snow. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
Mom, I just brushed. Come check. Look how strong my smile is. Ah!
February is National Children's Dental Health Month. Brushing twice a day, drinking fluoridated water, and regular dental checkups starting by age 1 lead the way for development and learning, good overall health, and beaming confidence. With prevention, kids can become iSmile Strong. Like the iSmile Dental Home Initiative Facebook page to learn how to maintain a healthy smile for life.
Brought to you by the Iowa Department of Public Health.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke.
145 over 92, and then I had a heart attack.
150 over 90, and I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure sounds like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a heart attack or stroke are far from silent. Get back on your treatment plan or talk with your doctor to create a plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Everything's changed.
Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the